I tell Mars I am glad she likes it, and that she should keep right on cultivating ants, and I give her soft, bouncy, warm belly one more stroke with a satisfied smile. It feels wonderful under my hand, and the only pity is that Mars belongs to the self-destruct ant clan. She would never blow herself up anywhere near me, I know that much, and still some part of me can never quite believe it is entirely safe. If it were, curling up against a belly like that to sleep would be about the most comfortable thing in the world. I leave Mars's room and head over to the hover ant queen, who is busy cultivating ants of her own. Ever since the hovering ant clan reached gold rank, her body has stretched out to a terrifying 20 meters long as a train car, and even my underground space, roomy as it is, cannot hold something that size on any real scale. Fortunately, at gold rank she woke an ability much like the tunneling ants' body shrinkage, letting her freely change her size and pull herself down to 1/10 of her length, so she does not take up too much room after all. On top of that, she gained 2 more gold rank abilities, one called Elastic Thick Skin that hardens her defense, and one called Jet Flight that raises her flying speed, both of them thoroughly practical. She senses me the moment I step in, flips lazily over in midair, and greets me in a drawn-out, languid croon, calling me her master. Watching her drift around so leisurely, I cannot help a knowing smile. My ants really have grown the most varied personalities, each one its own creature. And honestly, I much prefer them lively and human like this, full of moods and quirks, over anything cold and mechanical. She floats slowly across the room with her eyes half shut and settles beside me, her white belly puffed up like a cloud, so close and so tempting that I give it a couple of idle pats. A run of deep, drum-like thumps rolls out of her, and she blinks her eyes wide, tilts her head and asks me in genuine confusion why I am hitting her. I shake my head half laughing and tell her I am not hitting her, I am naming her, since custom says a queen of hers ought to have a name. The word name lands on a blank, bewildered face. This child, I wonder, is her intelligence maybe a touch lacking, because she does not seem very bright at all. But then again, perhaps it is exactly that placid, unhurried nature that makes her willing to serve as a flying carriage, holding herself steady in the sky, and the thought softens my whole look at her. I tell her that her belly is like a puff of fluffy cloud, and her disposition is easy and free, drifting wherever it likes, so I will call her Leisure Cloud, a cloud that floats along at its own gentle pace. At the name, her dull eyes suddenly brighten. She spins a full circle in the air, plainly in a fine mood, and marvels aloud that now she has a name of her own. I tell her I am glad she likes it, and remind her to cultivate plenty of hovering ants and not oversleep and forget. She hums back that Leisure Cloud will remember, and thanks her master in that hazy, half-dreaming voice of hers, which leaves me a little uneasy. I linger, watching her a while longer, then turn and go, telling myself she should be reliable enough. Should be. Back in my office, I sit quietly at my desk, twirling a pen, turning over the next arrangements in my head. The further along this all goes, the more vassals every regional lord will collect, and the more likely their glory rank climbs, which stretches out their black mist immunity time. Even if most lords cannot gather intelligence at the pace I can, all it takes is a little scouting of their surroundings for them to notice that the ownerless shelters have already been swept clean by me, and then they will grow wary. So whatever I do, I have to do it fast. The trouble is that after scouting the areas belonging to Will and the other 3, today's black mist immunity time is already spent. To move again, I would have to wait past midnight, and one single day's immunity is not entirely safe either, which means waiting until midnight tomorrow night. I frown, a prickle of urgency crawling up in me. Back on Blue Star, I was nothing more than an ordinary college student, no seasoned general, and this is the first time I have personally commanded a battle on this scale. Even with strong forces in hand, and 09 and the others backing me to the hilt, I still feel a knot of uncertainty. Then it occurs to me that I have overlooked something, and my eyes light up. After scouting Will's areas and the rest, my glory rank rose to level 5, so my daily black mist immunity has already reached 4 hours. Today I only spent the level 4 allowance of 3 hours, which means I still have 1 hour of immunity left for the day. And with the reinforced magic mirror stacked on top, that becomes an hour and a half. If I launch tonight at 10:30 and let that spill over into tomorrow's allotment, I will have a full 7.5 hours of black mist immunity, which is more than sufficient. In my original plan, 6 hours was already almost enough, since every suspected lord shelter in the whole area is already marked, and I can strike each one precisely, so the extra time is simply another layer of insurance. I clench my fist, excited now, and fire off word to Will and the rest that the plan has changed, that we move at 10:30 tonight, and to get ready. Across the area, inside a shelter shaped like a Western-style tower, a teacup shatters against the floor, and a furious voice roars over the pieces. Heo Sing-yeol snarls that a full 200 people were dispatched for 2 whole days and did not turn up a single ownerless manual. The resources they dragged back, he rages, are a heap of junk not even worth their food, the intelligence a meager trickle, and not one high-ranked shelter was found, never mind mine. Below the ornate throne where he sits like an enraged lion, his people bow their heads and keep silent as cicadas in winter. weeping without tears on the inside. With only 2 hours of black mist immunity a day, they could hardly range far, and the shelters they did reach had already been picked clean, so how was any of that their fault? If anyone is to blame, they think, it is the master who sent them out too late and let others get there first. But not one of them dares open his mouth to say so, terrified of catching the man's temper in the crossfire. Heo Sing-yeol drops back into his seat, his face cooling from ferocity into something as flat and hard as an iceberg. He draws a long breath and sweeps a knife-edged glare over the silent lambs kneeling beneath the platform. Coldly, he tells them that the arena closes at 10, and that afterward, every last one of them is to go out and hunt down the coordinates of Lord Shelters for him. Not just them, he adds, but the more than 800 experimental subjects as well, and none of them need bother with resources anymore, only with finding Lord Shelters at an energy level above level 3. And if they cannot find them, he says, they will become subjects too. At the word subjects, the vassals shudder as one and cry out in unison that they hear him, young Master Heo, then scramble out of the hall the instant he dismisses them, as though pardoned from execution. Only Heo Sing-yeol stays behind, alone in his seat. Anger aside, he is no fool, and he turns it over quietly. Who exactly swept the whole region's resources so early, he wonders. Not me, surely, since I am only an archer and an archer's reach does not run that long. Could it be that so-called alliance of rats? He sneers to himself that a swarm of rats are rats no matter how many gather, and that if they have stolen his cake, he will make them cough it back up twice over. While Heo Sing-yeol and I each ready ourselves for battle, the other lords in the area are not idle either. Every one of them wants a head start before the eternal night ends, and every one of them has ended up back at the same starting line. Unlike the two of us, though, the rest are not preparing alone. Under the coaxing of a few ambitious souls, they have knotted themselves into a lord's alliance, 75 lords in all. And while any one of them might amount to little, gathered together they are a genuinely dangerous force. The one who started the lord's alliance is Mei Mu-chung, and she has used an item called a group chat creator to pull all 75 lords into a single conjured group chat, where they are holding a secret meeting. A chat spun up by the group chat creator allows direct voice calls, far handier than typing, and Mei Mu-chung is the first to speak, thanking everyone for their trust in that charming voice of hers, and welcoming them to the Lord's Alliance. A lord named Li Pio cuts her off rudely, snapping that she can spare them the pleasantries and get straight to the point, that he is busy. Another lord chimes in that she had better not play games or lure them along with so-called secrets and plans, because if she cannot deliver they will walk out any time. Mei Mu-chung does not lose her temper at the doubt. She stays perfectly composed and answers sweetly, telling Brother Biao not to be cross and promising that since everyone is anxious, she will be direct. She explains that every lord they could reach in the area is already in the group, and the rest are either stubborn fools or people to whom something unfortunate has happened. Even Son Weipeng, she says, who once ranked third, has now gone missing, which is truly a shame. At that, a chill settles over the group, and hushed, uneasy words pass among them, because many of them face Son Weipeng in the area arena, and know how strong he was. And if even he could vanish so silently, without a trace, then what hope have they? Seeing them start to fret over their own necks, Mei Mu-chung covers her mouth and laughs softly, then goes on. She says plainly that the only true powerhouses in the area, beyond any argument, are Jang Hyun and Heo Sing-yeol. For ordinary people like them, she goes on, if they do not want to be ground under someone else's heel and turned into vassals, an alliance is the only road left. She insists she has gathered them here not out of self-interest, but purely for everyone's freedom, really, and asks why else a weak little woman like her would trouble herself, working so hard and putting herself out on the line like this. By now her voice has thickened into the edge of a sob, and it stirs a protective ache in anyone who hears it. Li Pio breaks in again, demanding to know why she is crying, and insisting that with so many of them together they hardly need to fear those two. He tells her to hurry up and lay out the plan, though his voice has gone noticeably softer now, none of its earlier bite left. Mei Mu-chung sniffles, then resumes. She tells them that like it or not, they must admit one fact, that the area chief will surely be one of those two men. Their combined strength is nothing to scoff at, she says, but they are scattered, so once war breaks out, no single one of them could stand against either giant alone, and they would be picked off one by one. Her words drop into another long silence, until at last someone asks her simply to give them the solution, since surely Miss Mei did not drag them all here only to frighten them for sport. Mei Mu-chung answers in that same coy voice that she would never dare joke with her big brothers. Her solution, she says, is to make an announcement in the area channel declaring the Lord's Alliance founded. They will inform Jang Hyun and Heo Sing-yeol that the alliance will not interfere in their contest for area chief, so long as the two of them do not attack the members at will. She has barely finished before several voices scoff at once. One sneers that a statement like that carries no binding power at all, that she cannot simply say no fighting and make it so, while another curses that he actually believed this little girl and asks whether she thinks this is a child's game. More and more of them pile on until the chat turns into a shouting market. Mei Mu-chung stays quiet through all of it, and only drops a single item's information into the group. The moment they see it, the babbling chat falls dead silent. It reads as an Area Alliance mutual aid contract of gold rank, one that establishes an alliance able to hold 100 members and lets group members relocate their shelters into the vicinity of the alliance leader's shelter. Into the sudden hush, Mei Muchong says, full of confidence, that the alliance she means is not an empty name, that with this mutual aid contract, so long as everyone moves together to face the enemy, there is nothing to fear from Jang Hyun or Heo Singyel. Every lord holds a little strength and a few resources, and lives in relative comfort. Set against being beaten down and subjugated into a vassal by one of the two, joining the alliance and staying a free person is far more agreeable, especially when this contract seems to carry so few restrictions. After a brief silence, they all agree to sign the mutual aid contract and join, and they begin migrating their shelters toward Mei Mushong's. Inside a shelter of grotesque design, carved over with hideous figures, a seductive woman in a tight open-work leather outfit reclines on a feather-stuffed bed, stroking a parchment that already bears over 70 signed names, a triumphant look on her face. As her fingers trail across it, the strange patterns along the parchment's edges slowly fade, and the item's information quietly changes. Where it once read Area Alliance Mutual Aid Contract, it now reads Devil's Mutual Aid Contract. Time slips along to 10 o'clock at night and everyone has finished the day's arena battles. At an hour that should have been for rest, my area is instead churning with hidden currents. In one corner, hundreds of figures pour out of a 3-story Western-style tower, some of them loping on all fours, some with fleshy wings, and they scatter in every direction, several of them bearing straight toward my shelter. On another side of the area, shelter after shelter has lined up like a military camp, one continuous stretch wrapped in a strange pink aura that breathes out an intoxicating haze. And at the same moment, my own territory welcomes a few familiar guests, as a 40-meter mecha rises up out of the ground with a rolling rumble. These regulars are Will and the others. The instant the rumble hits and the ground shakes, Baekhyun springs backward, his face full of alarm, blurting something about what on earth that was, and asking whether my place sits on an earthquake fault, because he has no wish to be buried alive. I shake my head, at a loss, and tell him to stop talking nonsense, that it is only 09 operating the mech. Mech? He and Shumha both echo, baffled, wondering what kind of mech could kick up a commotion like that, and whether it is even reasonable. For the past half-month, the two of them have been busy, only now and then asking 09 to make some small props, and their whole idea of her work is protective armor for my ants and a few energy guns. So hearing the word mech for the first time, they picture some little piece of gear, maybe an exoskeleton a person straps on. I smile and shake my head, and tell them it is nothing so small. They have seen the giant battle robots and the caped heroes from the old science fiction shows, I say, and it is something like that. A 40-meter mech I have named Sky Pillar. That lands like a thunderclap. Unlike me, neither of them watched 09 build the thing up from nothing, and to hear that a creation straight out of science fiction has walked into reality, they both cry out in shock, faces wide with astonishment. I gather them up, telling them to come see for themselves, since it will be showing off its skills soon enough, and we board a hovering ant passenger bus that carries us down to the warehouse district on the 5th underground floor. The moment we step off the bus, Baekhyun and the others lay eyes on the mech 09 built, its body a black and silver alloy finished with a few strokes of red paint, and his eyes blow wide open. He lunges forward, shouting that this is incredible, too cool, every young boy's dream. Sky Pillar nimbly steps back, so his pounce catches nothing but air and he goes down flat on his face. Cheongha's expression darkens. She marches over, grabs him by the ear, and hauls him aside, scolding that he is nearly 30 and asking whether he is not ashamed to still call himself a young boy. He yelps that men are forever young and begs Cheongha Nuna to let go, because it hurts. Watching that lively fool get dragged off by the ear, I shake my head with a smile and look up at Sky Pillar's head, asking 09 how the debugging is going. Sky Pillar's head dips twice in a small nod, hydraulics hissing, and a low mechanical hum answers that everything is normal. Then the cockpit cover on its head opens, and 09 climbs out in a silver tight-fitting combat suit, Sky Pillar's great hand cupping her gently and lowering her to the ground. She hops down from that huge palm, her silver-white twin ponytail swaying, shakes out her slightly mussed hair, and comes over to us with a face that shows nothing at all. She tells me, flat and quiet, that she has activated my driving authority, that if anything confuses me I can talk to her through the cockpit's voice system, and that if it comes to it she can switch on her mech god talent and assist me remotely. My black mist immunity only extends to my vassals, my summoned creatures, and my pet beasts, and certainly not to a companion like 09, who stands as my equal, so all I can do is borrow her Sky Pillar and pilot it myself. I nod and tell her in earnest that I will use it well. Hearing all this, Baekhyun finally catches up. He points at Sky Pillar, then at me, and demands to know whether I mean to pilot the mech myself, later. I confirm it, explaining that 09 has no vassals and no glory rank, so she cannot be immune to the black mist, which leaves me the only one who can pilot it. At once Baekhyun protests that he has a glory rank too, that even if it is not as high as mine he can still fight, and pleads to be allowed to drive the mech, and have a little fun. Sky Pillar may have eaten a great many of my resources in the making, but in the end it is 09's creation, and I would not decide anything over her head. So I shake my head and tell him it is not my call, that he will have to ask 09. He turns a longing look on her, but before he can even speak, she cuts him off with a crisp, cold refusal, saying only no. Struck as if by lightning, his finger trembling, he starts to ask why I am allowed when he is not, and she flatly tells him there is no reason, she simply will not give it to him. That freezes him solid like a frostbitten eggplant, and he squats off to the side, muttering to himself and drawing little circles on the ground. The rest of us trade smiles and pay the small tantrum no mind, carrying on with our preparations. And after he has performed a while and seen that nobody is watching, Baekhyun slips back into the discussion as if nothing happened. Only 09 lowers her head a fraction, a flicker of confusion crossing her eyes. Sky Pillar is bound to her by a mechanical heart, a deeply personal thing. So why does she feel no resistance at all to letting me pilot it? A strange feeling, she thinks, and lets it go. 09 has offered up Sky Pillar for the coming fight, and the others have brought out plenty of good things of their own. Cheongha goes first, drawing several full sacks from the pouch at her waist and introducing them one by one. This bag, she says, holds cage thorn seeds, which sprout the instant they touch soil and grow at a furious rate into a cage, and if you scatter them beside an enemy's shelter, they will fence the whole thing in. The more seeds, the sturdier the walls. She adds, with a glance at me, that I have a new ant that can self-destruct now, and that the two ought to pair beautifully. Hearing her, I picture it at once, hovering ants drifting over an enemy shelter with self-destruct ants aboard, the enemy scrambling to flee and finding themselves penned in by the thorns, and my look at her turns rather odd. You look so gentle and kind, Cheongha, I think, and yet your heart runs this cruel. But I like it. I nod, satisfied, and tell her it is a fine idea and that I already know exactly who to try it on, then take the seeds and look over the rest of what she has brought. They are fruits that briefly raise this or that attribute, along with improved, strengthened explosion fruits. I already have far deadlier self-destruct ants, but I am not out for total slaughter tonight. I still want to recruit more vassals, so the milder explosion fruits will be more useful in the right situations. After introducing everything, Cheongha says, a little apologetic, that she is sorry, and that most of her strength comes from the world tree and from herself. The world tree cannot be moved easily, she explains, and she has little black mist immunity of her own, so all she could offer me is resources. By our first agreement, she was meant to help with everything she had, and this plainly falls well short of everything. I only shake my head and console her gently. Our earlier plan, I remind her, was built for daytime operations after the eternal night ends, and this is a spur-of-the-moment strike, with the black mist making everything awkward, so it hardly counts against her. Besides, I tell her, the items she gave me are genuinely useful, and I am not merely being polite. The fruits may only nudge a few attributes, but there are so many of them that they can supply my whole main force, and for ants whose base attributes are already fierce, an extra boost shows very obvious returns. It is the same principle as always, flowing output resting on solid support. Then Will hands me a great many items of his own. If Cheongha's fruits are dietary supplements, Will's gifts are medicinal tonics, potions of every kind. Set against her pure, natural, harmless produce, his potions all carry some measure of side effect, a whiff of cold, ruthless technology about them. But their potency is the real thing, and if a man truly fought for his life and swallowed several at once, the power he could unleash might well double. Like Cheongha, Will is capped by his glory rank and cannot go out to battle, only support. Neither of them has taken on many vassals, though for wholly different reasons. Will is a man of few words who rarely surfaces on the area channel, and in the arena he is a savage, bloodthirsty figure who says nothing and simply splits every opponent in half with his axe. So the survivors in his area take him for a cruel villain and secretly nickname him the Bloody Butcher, and not a soul dares apply to be his vassal. Cheongha, by contrast, is top-notch in image, strength, and management alike, and simply prefers the quiet, taking in only a few girls to help tend her flowers and plants, and no one else. I accept Will's potions and look at the two of them with a touch of regret, and I advise them both. The Dark World has been signaling from every angle that we should recruit vassals and develop our territories. I say, so even if they dislike it, they would do well to take some people in and raise their glory rank. Finding suitable subordinates to manage really does not take much effort. They exchange a glance and nod seriously, and seeing them agree, I smile and tell them to simply take over their own areas, and then accept the survivors already living there. With their gifts received, only the big spender Baekhyun is left, and the moment my eyes swing to him, he tosses a ring over. A ring, I think, my eyes lighting up as I reach to catch it, remembering that he owns a spatial ring with serious storage. Could this be a spatial ring stuffed full of items, handed straight to me? So generous. That is just like you, Baekhyun. But when I have it in hand and take a closer look, it is no spatial ring at all, but a ring shaped like a serpent devouring its own tail. Its information reads as an Ouroboros ring of gold rank, one where within the same area the binder can teleport to the ring's location, and the ring holder can teleport to the binders. with Baekhyun listed as the current binder, a ring for mutual teleportation inside the area. Then, an Ouroboros is a fitting name for it. I raise an eyebrow, and Baekhyun explains with a grin. His glory rank is only level 3, he says, but he can move freely in the black mist for 2 hours and can fully back me up in a fight, though he thinks he suits the role of insurance better than direct intervention. Insurance, I murmur, a little puzzled. He clarifies that he will wait in the underground city of my shelter, so that if I hit a life-threatening crisis, I can use the Ouroboros ring to teleport to his side and dodge the blow. Or if I run into a nasty opponent, he says, I can use it to summon him to me to lend a hand. He scratches his head and gives a bashful put-on little smile, insisting that he is actually quite good in a fight. And he is not joking either. This is the man who solo killed gold-ranked mutated beasts back when they first appeared, so I do not take it as a boast. I rub the Ouroboros ring with my thumb, look up, and tell him that is good, that my current strength should already be enough, but a bit of insurance will set me more at ease. The truth is, I already have my own means of survival. After I broke into the first tier, my species contract evolved into a platinum rank skill and unlocked a new ability called damage transfer. And though I have never once used it, it lends me no small confidence. Still, whoever complained about having one more way to save his own life? I slide the Ouroboros ring on, smile around at all of them, and thank them for their help, telling them to simply wait for good news in the underground city. I parcel out the items the 4 have given me to each ant queen to be handed on to the ants of their colonies. Then I board Skypillar and, under Baekhyun's envious gaze, ride it to the mech launch silo, where I wait in silence for 10:30 to come. In a bone-structured shelter with a savage face, somewhere in the area, a pool steadily breathes out pink mist, and beside it, on a stone platform, lies a parchment drinking that mist in. 75 names are written across it, and as it drinks, a third of them have already been stained by the pink, dyed a vivid living red. The seductive woman in leather sways over, glances down, and laughs softly behind her hand. Already a third, she murmurs to herself, and in 6 more hours she, Mei Muchong, will be the single strongest force in the entire area. Jang Hyun, Heo Singyel, she croons. Neither of you ever dreamed of this, and she says she is truly looking forward to the look in their eyes when she captures them, certain it will be delicious. In the Western-style 3-story tower, Heo Singyol sits high in his seat, brows knotted, his right hand propping his chin in thought. A lord's alliance, he scoffs inwardly, laughable, since no matter how many useless people they pile together, useless is still useless, and as long as he has the coordinates, he can plunge them into purgatory from 1,000 miles off. But why, he wonders, has that useless Li Pio still not sent the coordinates, when by rights there has been more than enough time? Could the man have some other design? Li Pio looks rough but is actually careful, and he knows how strong Heo Singyel is, so he would not be so foolish. Heo Singyel shakes his head, baffled, and gazes off into the distance again. He wonders whether these useless people will manage to sniff out my coordinates tonight, since I am the biggest enemy standing between him and the seat of area chief. This is already the 3rd night, he thinks, and the first 2 ruled out 2 directions, and with all his vassals dispatched, even his experimental subjects, a little luck should finally turn up my territory. He wants very badly to set off a grand fireworks display, and he sighs with a wild, hungry anticipation glittering in his eyes. Just as the hour nears 10:30, a figure with fleshy wings, barely recognizable as human, streaks toward the southeast, and gradually a level 4 shelter shaped like a small 2-story building swims into its view. The winged figure's vertical pupils narrow, and it thrusts an energy detector forward, and jabs the red button. The needle jumps to life and swings the whole way across, from the far left clear to the far right, and then bursts apart. The winged figure cocks its head in confusion, mumbling in disbelief. Energy, level 5, Jang Hyun. The winged figure cannot be sure whether the shelter before it is where I am. But before setting out, every one of these experimental subjects took the same order from Heo Singyol, that any detected energy above level 3 marks a suspected Janghyun shelter, and must be reported back as fast as possible. The winged figure stares at the needle jammed at the far right, and slowly reads off the scale, stammering that 5 is greater than 3. So it is Jang Hyun, that it has found Jang Hyun, must report. Then wisps of blood chi seep out of its body, and with a beat of its wings it tears away at several times its former speed. It detected my shelter at 10:20, when I was still finishing my pre-battle preparations down on the 5th underground floor. And since it was still a good distance off, I never noticed that an uninvited guest had come and gone. Only Will's brow tightened when the winged figure paused, as if he sensed some aura draw near and then quietly recede. But with the eternal night on, and so many mutated beasts wandering the dark outside, he thought little of it and let it pass. The hour reaches 10:30 at last, exactly my chosen time, and exactly the sliver of the day's black mist immunity I have left. Piloting Skypillar, I speak to Will and the other 3 through the muffled voice system, telling them time is up, that I am heading out, and to wish me luck. To their blessings, the huge circular alloy gate at the top of the 5th underground floor slides quickly open. Blue-purple flame jets from Skypillar's back engine, and it soars up the launch silo, past the 4th underground floor, the 3rd, and on out to the surface. Behind and below me, the last circular gate seals shut, and thanks to its design, the black mist outside does not seep into the shelter. Out in the open, I sit in Skypillar's cockpit, study the light screen, and nod, satisfied. All the map data my sentry ants gathered has been fed into Skypillar's map system, so there is no fear of getting lost, and I have to admit high technology is a fine convenience. Now, which friend to call on first? I settle on starting with the shelters my sentry ants flagged as high in energy, the ones suspected of belonging to lords, since the only real threats are those few, and the rest can wait. Still, I do not simply follow the energy readings in order, but weigh distance against energy together and start with the nearest suspected lord shelter, while smaller shelters get taken down by little ant combat teams, so that great targets and small are all scooped up at once. It is the steadiest strategy, balancing speed against stealth, because if my army marched past every minor shelter, the noise alone might rouse the enemy. My gaze falls on the several giant dots nearest my own shelter, and since speed is everything, I lock a target and drive Skypillar racing toward one of them. At the same time, I issue commands through the mutual aid contract. Mole, Swift Shadow, and Rock Spirit will serve as commanders of the Ant Army, with Mole as overall commander jointly directing the Composite Brigade and the Composite Squads and attacking freely according to each target's energy. After a target is subdued, I add, give them 10 seconds to surrender and become my vassal, then move at once to the next. The three answer together that they hear me, Master. I do have Light Healing, Leisure Cloud, and Mars as well, but those three queens run too gentle, too lazy, and too reckless in turn, none of them suited to command, while Mole, Swift Shadow, and Rock Spirit are the reliable ones. I nod, reassured by their reply, switch on the setting that accepts vassal applications automatically, and close on the nearest high-energy shelter. Along the way, the snow and wind rage and mutated beasts fortified by the black mist lunge at me now and then. But before Skypillar's solid frame and brute propulsion, they are no obstacle at all, and I plow through them without slowing a hair. In 10 minutes, I reach the target location, and then, before I can even show off and fire Skypillar's first shot in this world, I freeze. 500 meters ahead, where a level 3 shelter ought to stand, there is nothing. Not a level 3 shelter, not even a level 1. That cannot be right. Could the sentry ants' intelligence be wrong? The thought no sooner rises than I throw it out, because with how professional the sentry ants are, even a slight error could never be so absurd as to wrongly mark a high-energy shelter. So has the shelter grown legs and walked off by itself. Frowning, more than a little puzzled, I edge Skypillar forward into the empty space where a level 3 shelter should sit, dip its head, and send 2 white beams stabbing out to cut the darkness and light up a full 100-meter circle of ground. In that glow, I see a square patch of soil, dozens of square meters across, clearly fresher than everything around it, exactly the footprint of a level 3 shelter. While beyond it, the earth turns drier and darker. The intelligence was not wrong then, I murmur. There really was a level 3 shelter here, and for some reason it truly did grow legs and run. Interesting. I wonder whether this is a single fluke or something more. Even as I ponder it, a string of reports comes in from several ant queens at once. No shelter found 8,921 meters to the southwest, none 11,213 meters to the east. 7 small owned shelters below level 3 located, targets disarmed and made to send vassal applications. My frown digs deeper. This is no isolated fluke after all. From everything Moal and the others have gathered, every suspected Lord shelter has vanished, while the weaker survivors sit right where they were, which means either the Lords deliberately relocated their shelters by some method, or someone got here ahead of me and uprooted them first. Both possibilities, whichever it is, spell serious trouble, and the sense of my whole plan being knocked off its rails leave me thoroughly irritated. I was only 2 days short of finishing this area's intelligence, I think, so the change must have happened in exactly that window, and I can only hope I am not too late. I draw a slow breath and say low and hard, Moal, take command of the ant army, drop the stealth, and speed up. She answers at once that she hears me and obeys, and the vast tide of the ant army surges towards its targets while I take a new one of my own and vanish from where I stood. While I am still combing the surrounding shelters, that same winged figure who scanned my shelter is streaking down a sideline toward Heo Signol's. Having overdrawn its life force to squeeze out every drop of speed, it takes only a little over half an hour to reach the 3-story western tower. It is brought up to the 3rd floor and made to kneel beneath the platform where Heo Signol sits, and it manages, with enormous effort, to force out that it has found Jang Hyun. Its mind is fogged from overdrawing its life, and blood runs steadily from its body, staining the marble floor a deep red. Heo Signol frowns, paying its wretched state no mind, and asks coldly what energy intensity it detected, privately suspicious that so many searched for 2 days and turned up nothing, yet a brainless experimental subject found the mark in under an hour. Master, it coughs. Energy, level 5, then hacks up bloody foam and trembles out a blood-smeared detector from its pocket, setting it down before itself. Level 5. Heo Signol's pupils shrink hard and his lounging, half-reclined body shoots upright, his face full of disbelief. The energy detector the winged figure carries was gear the Heo family provided him. able to read energy intensity with very little error. Though limited by its own grade, it tops out at level 5, which for the current overall strength of the survivors is more than enough. Hyo Singyal himself reads only around level 3.5 in energy intensity. He knows I have seized regional first place more than once, that I even ambushed him treacherously to steal the regional economic crown, so my energy would hardly run low. It was against his own level 3.5 that he set the order, telling his people to report back the instant they found any target at level 3 or above, and treat it as me. But that I could reach an absurd level 5 never once crossed his mind. Energy levels do not add up in a straight line, he knows. So a level 5 intensity is not merely 1.5 above his 3.5. It is more than 10 times greater. If my energy truly stands at level 5, then he is fighting a battle already lost, and had better run while he still can. Impossible, he mutters. Level 5, Jang Hyun, an archer. Does he think he is the legendary archer who shot down the extra suns? He does not believe the winged figure is lying, since his experiments have left these subjects 100% loyal, with no room for deceit. Utterly horrified, his composure gone, he walks unsteadily down from the platform toward the kneeling figure, and his eyes drop to the blood-smeared detector on the floor. When he sees it clearly, he suddenly goes still, and his trembling stops. The needle does sit at the far right, at the level 5 mark, but it is not resting there properly. It is fixed there, jammed hard against the stop, as if it caught an energy far beyond level 5 and swung so fast it stuck. That is only one possibility, of course. The other is simply that the detector is broken. And set against the first, the second is far easier for him to swallow, since a level 5 reading is already unbelievable, let alone something higher still, that could break the scale and shatter the needle outright. He bends, snatches the detector up, and shakes it a few times, but the needle stays pinned to the far right and will not spring back. Damn it, he curses. It is broken, and it scared him half to death. He hurls the detector to the ground so its parts scatter everywhere, then raises his right foot and stamps and kicks savagely at the dying winged figure kneeling before him. This useless trash he spits, dared frighten him with a broken detector, dared falsely report military intelligence to him. Kick after kick, the winged figure, already barely breathing, grows fainter under his heel, until it makes no sound at all, and it simply lies there with its mouth open, its confused, empty eyes staring at the scattered detector parts. Even in death it could not understand why. Having brought back the correct information, its master punished it all the same. Take it away, Heo Singyul orders once he has vented, shaking the blood from his shoes and straightening his clothes, telling his attendants to haul the body off and scrub the floor. He walks back toward the platform, muttering that regardless, this is the first suspected coordinate for me, so he will treat it as a preliminary target and take it seriously if nothing better turns up. He wonders aloud how things stand with Lee Pyo, since no word has come back for so long that Mei Muchung is surely up to something. If she really does knit that mob of flies into one force, he thinks, it will not threaten him, but it will be a nuisance. Reaching the seating area, though, he does not sit. He walks on past it to the red curtain behind the platform and pulls it aside, revealing a staircase that climbs to somewhere higher still. So the third floor is not the top of his shelter after all, for above it hides a fourth. He ascends expressionlessly to a cramped little room that is, from outside, the very spire of the western tower. Hardly a true fourth floor, more like a floor, 3 and a fraction. Inside sits nothing but a single cylindrical stone seat, and Hyo Singyal slots the snake-headed staff he carries into it. At once a ring of red magical formation rises up out of the whole stone seat, throwing its light across his face until he looks like a demon crawled up from the abyss, and he rubs his trembling hands together with a glint of madness in his eyes. He has no idea that the very Jonghyun he keeps turning over in his mind is at this moment closing on him at a furious pace, less than an hour from his doorstep. Meanwhile, the other survivors in the area dimly feel that the air has gone wrong. The regional chat channel is eerily quiet tonight, and those who are usually loud seem to have agreed all at once to disappear without a trace. Someone tries to coax an old neighbor out to chat in the late hour and gets nothing back, wondering aloud whether the man has really gone to sleep this early. At first a few voices spoke in the regional chat, but as the minutes pass the messages thin out and then stop, as if the whole channel had been muted. Mei Muchung notices the strangeness too, and she is not rattled. She glances at the Devil's mutual aid contract, whose corruption has crept to 43%, stretches languidly, and chuckles that someone has clearly made a move, though she cannot say whether it is Jang Hyun or Heo Singyal. She muses whether they are baffled to find most of the shelters standing empty. She is not worried about being uncovered before the corruption finishes, because she has already corrupted 43% of the lords, 30 people. Though every one of them sits low in the rankings, they still count among the top 100 elites of the whole region. And together with the vassals each of them keeps, they add up to a fearsome force. Even if Jang Hyun or Heo Singyal found her right now, she thinks, she would not be the least bit afraid, and she truly believes it. Of course, if she had any idea of the real strength of those two men, she would not think that way at all. Her confidence rests entirely on knowing nothing of true power. More than half an hour has gone by, and I have kept up my momentum, vassal applications rolling in one after another as I advance. All of them people Mole and her team called on door to door. What warms me a little is that these survivors did not disappoint that team's midnight visits, and every one of them chose without hesitation to join my forces. Driving a weapon as powerful as Sky Pillar, I would hardly waste a cannon swatting flies, so I bypass the non-lord shelters entirely and steer for the high energy points marked on the map. To my frustration though, most of those high energy points are not just empty of people but empty of shelters altogether, and I turn up only a single level 4 shelter, whose lord fails to satisfy me as well. He is not like the weak survivors who never even sense me coming at least. But the moment he shows resistance, I drive Sky Pillar up and kick the second floor of his shelter flying, and his attitude flips a full turn on the spot. Once he and his subjects have joined me, I press on, exploring away from my own territory. Then Mowal sends a message that 5 humans have been spotted ahead. Humans. 5 people out here at this hour must be another lord's vassals. But whose? I frown, stop short and ask whether they noticed us first. She reports that they did not, and I tell her that is good. To subdue all 5 at once and find out whose vassals they are, but to disarm and pin them first, and not let a single one send a message back. Vassals have no survival manual, yet that does not leave them without ways to communicate, since I myself equip my vassals with communication ants and other lords may well have their own tricks. So to be safe, I have Mole's team take all 5 in the same instant. She agrees readily that the mission is as good as done, then hands the task to Swift Shadow, since black scythe hunting ants suit open assault while snatch and silence work is the sentry ant's specialty. Swift Shadow wastes no time, assigning 15 sentry ants to the 5 targets, 3 to each, and they slip into camouflage until they all but melt into the ground, then close on the humans with light, soundless steps. Out on the dark, ice-locked wasteland, 5 dispirited, ragged survivors stagger along, their eyes emptied of any life. A tender-faced young man speaks up, telling an older man he calls Uncle Jang that in another 10 minutes or so it will have been nearly an hour. Since they can only stay out in the dark for 2 hours, he says, they will have to turn back once they hit the 1-hour mark. The weathered middle-aged man he calls Uncle Jang hesitates and answers that they still have not found any useful intelligence, and that going back could well see young Master Hio turn them into those things that are neither human nor ghost, which is worse than death. The others shiver at the words, and the tender-faced young man, paler now, says in a trembling voice that then they had better keep looking. He has scarcely finished when several dark shapes flash before his eyes. A sharp pain stabs through his limbs, and he crumples to the ground, the energy detector tumbling from his hand. Mutated beasts, he thinks in alarm, and then he sees the things that struck him. 3 palm-sized ants with head carapaces like dark green military helmets. He gasps at Uncle Jang to be careful, but before the words are out, his companions collapse around him just as he did, each ringed by strange ants, and despair floods him. Weak as they are survivors forged in Heo Singyol's culling system. Every one of them a bronze grade in the arena, yet against these few unremarkable ants they are utterly helpless. What terrifying ants are these, he wonders. Am I going to die? Bitterness fills his face, and no grand thought comes to him. Only the raw human fear of death. He had imagined several ways he might go, but never that he would end up disemboweled by ants. Well, he thinks with a bleak little smile, it beats being turned into experimental material by Heo Singyol, and he closes his eyes and gives himself up to it entirely. To his surprise though, after more than 10 seconds he can still think, and it seems he is still alive. He bravely opens his eyes and finds that the ants have made no further move. They have only laid their dagger-like forelegs against the throats of him and his companions, for all the world like robbers holding hostages, and the sight leaves him stunned. Ants are only insects, so how could they carry such intelligence and mimic such human actions? Before he can chew on that, something even more staggering happens. A larger ant of the same shape strides out and asks, in plain human speech, whose vassals they are. Ants that can speak human words. The 5 cannot trust their own ears, half convinced they have already died and everything now is illusion. Seeing them dumbstruck and silent, Swift Shadow flicks her antennae and says, cold and impatient, that they will answer her, or die. It is the quick-witted, tender-faced young man who answers first, blurting that their lord is young Master Heo, then adding, when pressed, that it means Heo Singyol. A lord holds absolute control over his vassals, but only in 2 respects. That a vassal cannot attack his lord and must obey a direct command without the slightest hesitation, while there is little restraint on what a vassal thinks or says. So facing certain death, and long sick of Heo Singyol besides, the young man sells him out without hitting any wall at all. It is Heo Singyol, Swift Shadow relays to me, delighted. I have not strayed far while working alongside the ant army, and on Swift Shadow's word I rush over, Sky Pillar's mighty propulsion putting me at her side in only 3 minutes. The 5, seeing the sentry ants have not hurt them, are no longer as frightened as before, and though pinned flat against the cold ground they let their eyes rove about. But in the next breath another thing beyond their understanding drops into view. A towering mech flying in from afar. Talking ants were already outrageous, and now a giant mech, and they gape at it, unable to make a sound. Swift shadow, I say, release them, and she answers that she hears me. A booming voice rolls out of the mech's head. The sentry ants let the 5 go, and yet all their gear and belongings are confiscated. Freed or not, they lie stiff on the ground, not daring to twitch. Get up, I tell them, and answer one question for me. They struggle upright, but instead of standing, they drop to their knees and bow, begging me to ask. Watching them fold so smoothly into a kowtow, I frown inside Skypillar's cockpit, wondering just how Hyo treated his vassals to strip them this bare of human dignity. I sneer at his methods, this feudal landlord style of rule that looks imposing and in truth squanders enormous productivity, because a lord's standing should grow from the genuine love of his subjects, not from crushing them under fear. Get up, I say low. Do not kneel. They look up in confusion, staring at Skypillar, so cautious after their long grinding down under Hyo that they still do not rise. Frowning, I raise my voice, telling them that Hyo used brutal methods and a lord's rules to force them to their knees, but that I am telling them to stand. When I have beaten Hyo, I say, they will all be my people, Jangyun's people, and my people live with dignity. Startled by the rebuke, they climb to their feet at last, expressions tangled and stirred, stammering their yes sir over and over. I nod and ask them the location of Hyo shelter. The 5 trade glances, and the tender-faced young man bravely offers that it lies to the northwest, some 20 to 30 kilometers off. I raise an eyebrow and check the map on the light screen, but across the whole northwest, out to 50 kilometers, there is no dot that reads like a lord's energy signature. Given Hyo strength, his signature should be anything but low, and 50 kilometers swallows their 20 to 30 range whole, so there ought to be no mistake. I ask whether he is certain of the direction, and he swears he would never dare lie to me. I nod and ask when they set out, then reckon that people reinforced as heavily as these, their bodies far past ordinary, could still cover more than 20 kilometers in nearly an hour even at a night-slowed pace. If they are not lying, then the problem lies with Hyo shelter, and it is very likely he has some means of fooling the sentry ants' detection. So I ask whether they know what his shelter looks like. The young man replies that they were teleported straight to the outside world and never saw its face, though from its inner structure, they gathered it holds at least 3 layers of space. 3 layers, I muse, stroking my chin. I truly did not find any shelter of that shape in the sentry ant's sweep, so Hyo does have some way to hide it. I understand, I say loudly, and thank them for the information, then tell them I will need them to point out the entrance for me, and order Swift Shadow to bring them along. I fly Skypillar toward the northwest, but I do not go charging at the target alone at full speed. Confident as I am in Skypillar and in my own knack for staying alive, rushing in blind is not my way, so I gather the whole ant army, mount them on the hovering ants, and advance together. Along the road, we keep finding scattered humans, and once subdued they all prove to be Hyo's vassals too, which only firms my certainty that his shelter waits ahead. I have the ants subdue and disarm each one, knock them out and pile them into ownerless shelters to keep them clear of the black mist, then press on hard toward the target, and in 15 minutes I stand 3 kilometers out. There I halt the ant army and sweep ahead with Skypillar's radar, and still find nothing that could be Hyo's shelter. Frowning, I turn to the 5 and ask why. If this is where they say his territory sits, it stands empty. Sir, the young man explains hastily, every time they leave the shelter they appear right here, and going back they stand over there, lose consciousness and wake up inside again. Point out the exact spot, I tell him, and he gestures at the patch stamped thickest with footprints. With prints that dense, they are surely not lying. Swift Shadow, I say, send some sentry ants to comb the open ground ahead, a carpet search. Hundreds of them pour over the footprint-covered area, but they touch no presence at all. Not even any hidden invisible thing. Not on the ground then. It cannot be in another dimension, but besides the ground there are other places to hide. Underground. Or the sky. I lean toward the sky more than underground, tilt Skypillar's head up over the open ground, and let the radar sweep, and there, at 200 meters up, I finally catch a bizarre ripple in the air. Found you, I sneer, and point at the shimmer overhead. Mowal, I order. Ready the compressed energy cannons and fire on the target. All this while 09 was not only debugging Skypillar, she also set up a production line for compressed energy guns on the 5th underground floor. Lured by generous pay, the line workers were quickly hired and run at full tilt, turning out 100 compressed energy guns a day, so that after 12 days of operation, the line has made 1,200 in all. The technology behind the guns is not especially complex, and there is every capability to open several more lines, but only one runs, purely because raw materials are short and such output would be pointless anyway. The compressed energy cannon is a different matter, for 09 cannot set up a line for it at all, only forge each one herself, and limited by her own time, she has given me 12 cannons, at a ratio of 1 to 100, without over-equipping. So I've armed the ant army with those 1,200 compressed energy guns and 12 compressed energy cannons, handing the guns to certain black scythe hunting ants and sentry ants, and mounting the cannons on 12 hovering ants alone. The instant my order to fire goes out, the 12 hovering ants carrying the cannons fly to a kilometer from the target, turn their heads and aim every muzzle at the coordinates I marked. The barrels roar, and bright white spheres of compressed energy gather at the mouths, and in a little over 30 seconds they swell to their fullest, pulsing faintly, ready to loose at any second. I drop Sky Pillar to hover below the hovering ants, raise my right hand and swing it down hard, calling fire. The barrels roar as 1 and 12 blinding spheres the size of basketballs streak out at lightning speed. So fast, the tender-faced young man and his 4 companions breathe, catching only a flash before the spheres slam into the target a kilometer off. By any common sense, that stretch of dark, empty sky should have let them fly straight through. Yet instead they strike something like a wall, and a run of thunderous, muffled explosions rolls out. The 5 clutch their aching ears and stare, dumbstruck at the fire blooming in the sky, one of them stammering that Hyo-Sing-yeol's shelter is actually up in the air. Even they never knew its true place, and never dreamed I would uncover it in an instant. I watched the fire above calmly, in no hurry to close in, because every sign says Hyo-Sing-yeol keeps a good many tricks up his sleeve. So I hold my position and send a squad of flying sentry ants to reload those 12 cannon-bearing hovering ants with silver-rank beast cores. A compressed energy cannon's barrel can support 3 shots in a row, after which it must cool or risk bursting. And for tonight's work I laid in plenty of ammunition, and I have no intention of rushing his shelter before those 3 shots are spent. Just as the beast cores are half reloaded, the struck patch of sky warps, and a pockmarked, smoking 3-story western tower fades into view. 200 meters up, an enraged voice pours out of it at once, howling to know who is ambushing him, cursing that they actually destroyed the invisibility inscription on his wizard tower. So this is Hyo-Sing-yeol. What an appalling temper. While he rants, the sentry ants do not pause their reloading, and by now the cannons are recharged and brimming with energy. I shake my head and wave my hand again, and the same 12 spheres arrive in a heartbeat, every one striking the now visible tower, the roar of them drowning out his curses. Battered by the barrage, the 3-story tower sways drunkenly and then simply drops out of the sky. The attack worked, and yet I feel no joy, only a frown pulling at me and a heaviness settling in my gaze. I know the power of the compressed energy cannon intimately, each shot carrying gold-rank force, enough that even a wall of bronze and iron would be reduced to scrap in a single hit. But Hyo-Sing-yeol's western tower, so ordinary on the surface, looking as if it were thrown together from brick and tile and timber, weathered a full 24 cannon shots without shattering, taking only some surface dents before it was knocked from the air. His shelter is not simple. I say nothing, but my hand does not stop, and I wave once more. The last 12 cannons all fire into the tower already crashed to earth, and the western tower, just barely landed, is blasted straight down into the ground. The sight sets the tender-faced young man and his companion shivering, their eyes filling with fear of me, this lord gentle on the outside and in truth a ruthless thing, who on meeting his enemies said not a word and simply loosed 36 cannons. For some reason, these people who ought to hate Hyo-Sing-yeol to the marrow feel, for the first time, a flicker of pity for him. Under a full 36 cannons, Hyo-Sing-yeol inside the tower is left numb and reeling, jarred into some internal injury. He shakily pulls a bottle of red potion from his ring and drinks it, and only then claws back a little strength, wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth, coughs, and crawls out of the crooked tower. Damn it, he snarls. Who exactly is ambushing him? And if not for the wizard tower's stout defense, he would truly have been finished here. His 3-story tower shelter is in fact a growth-type item called the wizard tower, boasting not only fearsome defense but a great many powerful functions. He had thought himself idle anyway, and had been about to use its abilities to cast a spatial fire composite spell and snipe, from an enormous distance, the coordinates the winged figure just handed him as a suspected Janghyun shelter. Instead of bombarding anyone, he got bombarded first, and he is furious and bewildered at once, genuinely unable to work out who commands such firepower, and picked this moment to come make trouble. Whoever dares provoke him, he growls he will see just what illustrious personage he is. He climbs up, face grim, tidies his dust-caked luxurious robes, draws an ebony staff from his ring, and gives it a gentle wave, and the next second he vanishes from his spot, teleporting out of the wizard tower now smashed underground. "You," he starts to say the instant he arrives outside, and then the word dies in his throat. His eyes stretch wide, fixed on the sky ahead in a shock he cannot name. A 40-meter alloy mecha hangs there, and behind it hundreds of airships fill the whole heavens, every one of them sailing toward him. Did I come to the wrong set? Hyo-Sing-yeol wonders aloud. Is this a joke? A lineup fit for some grand space war epic? And it has all turned out for him? I must be dreaming, definitely. He rubs his eyes hard and opens them again. But the mechs and airships have not popped like bubbles. They have only drawn closer, hovering now about 500 meters above him, hemming him in on every side. At this range, he finally makes out the true form of the airships, that they are insects with antennae and 6 legs, though it hardly matters, for insect or airship they stand for a power he cannot resist, and despair fills him. He nearly teleports back into the wizard tower, takes one step back and then stops. Where would he even run? It would only be burying his head in the sand like an ostrich, ducking the truth, and besides, the wizard tower has lost most of its capability under the cannon fire, and cannot carry him off unless it is repaired. Loath as he is to admit it, the truth will not bend to his wishes. He has lost, and lost completely. For I used only 36 cannonballs to shatter his dream of being area chief. Still, Heo Singyol does not yet know it is me, since mechs and insect airships are nothing like the archer he pictured. He sighs and laments that I have won, that he thought Jang Hyun the only opponent in the area, with Mei Mushong half an opponent, and never guessed someone as strong as this lay hidden away. If he is not mistaken, he says, I am the sort with little personal combat power who can still pile up great strength given enough resources. And he asks whether that is right. His tone has softened a great deal in the face of a power so far beyond his own. Then he looks up at Sky Pillar and finds his arrogance again, declaring that he has lost this round and admits defeat, that the seat of area chief can be mine, but that I must not harm him and must preserve his lord status. At that shamelessness, cooped up in Sky Pillar's cockpit, I nearly laugh from sheer anger. I shake my head and answer through the muffled voice system that I do not care to trouble other people, that what I want I take for myself, and that if I kill him the area chief's seat is naturally mine. The killing intent in the words makes Heo Singyol's heart lurch, and fearing this hothead might disregard everything and simply put a few more shots into him, he cries quickly that I cannot. I do not know his identity, he insists, for he is the direct heir of the Heo family, one of the 4 great families of Korea. His Heo family is a great house with the strength to command at least 20 areas, he warns. And if I kill him, the Heo family will never let me go. If we all shared one area, I might spare a thought, for the old cliché of elders hunting a younger man down. But the dark world holds over 800,000 areas, so what use is a Heo family that commands 20? Long before they ever found me, they would likely have been scattered by some unknown power, exactly like Heo Singyol himself. Boring, I say softly, shaking my head. Then I raise the giant mech sniper rifle in Sky Pillar's hand and level it at him below. Its barrel 7 or 8 meters long, its muzzle wider than his whole head. Locked in its sights, Heo Singyol feels his breath snag, as if a huge hand had closed around his heart and might crush it the next instant. And his voice shrinks. Wait, he pleads. Even if I do not fear the Heo family, I still cannot kill him, because however well I hide it, I can never hide my shelter's energy level. He holds the coordinates of many high-energy shelters, he says, and can strike them from afar with his methods, so the moment he dies the inscribed magic array will fire on its own, and unless my shelter is as tough as his, it will be shattered outright. It is the eternal night, he presses, and without a shelter no one, however strong, can hold off the black mist and live to see morning. He admits the coordinates he holds are incomplete, that perhaps my shelter's location slips through the gaps, but he demands whether I dare to gamble. More and more worked up, he throws out his chest and lifts his head like a hero bravely facing death, thrusting it toward me. I frown slightly. The next second, the sniper rifle in Sky Pillar's hand lowers, as though he has talked me around, and Heo Singyol breaks into a victor's smile. What does it matter that the man is strong, he thinks. The soft fear the hard fear the reckless fear the crazy, and the crazy fear the ones who will throw their lives away. He, this young master, dares to stake his life against mine, so as long as I do not dare, he is invincible. Proudly he tells me I may go, and that so long as we do not trouble each other from now on, he will not trigger the spell. Sky Pillar, with me at the controls, only shakes its head a little and stays silent. The next moment a hovering ant sets down, and countless black scythe hunting ants come pouring out of its abdomen and stream toward Heo Singyol. Hey, wait, you! He gets out, and then his few seconds of joy end as the dense tide of black scythe hunting ants swallows him. At first, many spell lights flare up out of the swarm, but little by little everything goes utterly silent. Heo Singyol never imagined this would be the shape of his death. He was the eldest young master of the Heo family, the strongest in the whole area. He meant to seize area chief and one day contend with the great powers of the entire dark world. And he had so many plans, so many escape routes prepared. Yet his greatest reliance was shattered outright by that brute Jang Hyun, and he dies in bitter frustration. But death is simply like that, granting a man no real time to ready himself, and once he chose the thorny road of conquest, he had to be prepared to die at any moment. Heo Singyol, deceased. Naturally, I would never be cowed by Heo Singyol. The only reason I did not fire just now is that the sniper rifle mounted on Sky Pillar is far too powerful, reaching platinum rank. Heo Singyol, a direct descendant of the Heo family with a wizard's inheritance, was certain to be carrying no small pile of treasures. One sniper round would have been deeply satisfying, but it would likely have blasted him into nothing, treasures and all, and that would have been a heavy loss, so plain physical methods were the wiser choice, since at least they cost me nothing. I watch Heo Singyol slowly lose his life, and no word comes of my own shelter being struck, and I decide he was only putting on a brave face, bluffing to the end. But then a red light flashes at the tip of the wizard tower jutting from the ground, and in an instant a vast red magic array unfurls. 10 blood-red flames, breathing out a terrifying energy, vanish from where they stood. Everything happens in a blink, and I have no time to stop it. 10 giant fireballs have already melted into the air. Gone. Their destination anyone's guess. And watching them vanish, an ugly premonition climbs up in me. If flames of that power came down on my own shelter, the consequences would be past imagining. I tell myself that even if Heo Singyal was not bluffing, he does not necessarily know my coordinates. And I have barely finished the small comfort when my manual starts up with a rapid string of alert pings. The only people who can reach me with an alert tone are Will and the other 3, and all 4 of them are inside my shelter right now. The fireballs disappear, and a heartbeat later one of them messages me, and I do not think that is coincidence at all. I snatch up the manual and read. Xion-ha asked me what that violent tremor and rumbling from overhead just now was, adding that they felt the shaking even down on the 4th underground floor. Tremor, rumbling. It has to be the fireballs. Heo Singyal's dying spell cast at the price of his own life. With the force those things carried, if all 10 had struck home, the 2-story building of my level 4 shelter would not have survived a second. It would have been flattened outright, and the ground beneath it very likely punched clean through. And it is the eternal night now, so a wrecked building is trivial, but if the black mist pours down into the underground city, that becomes a very large problem indeed. Heart in my throat, I reach through the mutual aid contract to the dozen or so tunneling ants still holding my territory and tell them to check the damage fast and start emergency repairs. Their answer comes back quickly. The main body of my shelter, the 2-story surface building, now stands engulfed in flame, reduced to a ruin, but by good fortune only those 2 little floors took harm, and the underground space I fret over most is completely untouched. The tunneling ants on watch only need a quick patch to seal the breach and keep the black mist out. Hearing that my territory is safe, I finally let my breath go. So it seems the fireball that came for me was only 1 out of the 10. Otherwise, with the raw fluctuation those things gave off, the damage could never have stayed this small. Heo Singyol said before he died that he had many targets picked out, so of course he would not throw everything at one uncertain spot. He would spread the pain. And I only wish I knew where the other 9 came down. I did not think much of the man while he lived, and I never expected him to hand me such a headache after death. What a troublesome fellow, I think. Good thing I killed him early. I frown out toward my territory and sigh. The shelter has no real crisis, yet the main structure of a genuine Dark World Level 4 shelter has just been blown to dust, and I do not like unknowns. Still, my biggest enemy in the whole area is already dealt with, so the pressure is off, and I could simply go home and rest. The whole run just now cost about 2 hours all told, and even counting the ride back it is only 2.5. That leaves me a full 5 hours of black mist immunity for the day, more than enough to confirm the shelter is sound, and then sweep up the remaining lords in the area at my leisure. So I send word to Mowal, telling her to have her subordinates loot Heo Singyol's items and haul his tower back, and to bring every last one of his vassals along too. Heo Singyol kept over 1,000 vassals, and that is no small resource. Once my ants killed him, ownership of all those vassals passed to me automatically, with none of the tedious business of forcing each one to surrender, so they can simply be carried home. Mowal answers at once that she hears me and obeys, and relays the orders down the line. I am about to turn and go when something nags at me, and I have Skypillar hold in midair. I look down toward the spot where Heo Singyol fell. The man himself has already been gnawed to bare bone by the black side hunting ants, with no danger of him crawling back to life. So it is not him I am watching. It is the scattered broken limbs and remains of my own ants nearby. When Heo Singyol was ringed by the swarm and fighting like a cornered beast, he loosed spell after powerful spell with everything left in him, and strong as my black scythe hunting ants are, under his desperate strikes more than 100 of them were hurt or killed. I sigh, and I tell Mowal to bring the wounded back first, and have Light Healing arrange their treatment, and as for the dead ants, to bury them. There is a pause. Her body trembles a little, and after a moment's hesitation she asks me, low, whether she might see her tribesmen off on their final journey. I am startled, then I nod and tell her to go. With my leave, Mowal draws a small team of black scythe hunting ants out of the mass and moves to the remains of the fallen. Then together they begin to devour them. My pupils tighten, but I do not stop them, and I wait in silence while Mowal and her team finish. 3 minutes later, the remains are wholly gone, taken back into the living. Mowal lifts her head to me up in the air and says, in a deep voice, that her black scythe hunting ant tribe does not fear death. Her fallen have become one with her now, and she will carry them within her and go on fighting for her master. I am quiet a moment, then I nod gently and tell her to rest easy, that I will lead her and her tribesmen to fight until the end of life. I gather my ants, sweep the battlefield clean of its spoils, and turn back toward my territory. Meanwhile, the 9 fireballs I keep wondering about have, by some black miracle, all ended up in the very same place. It is an area drowned in pink mist, dozens of high-ranked shelters crowded together. Heo Singyol's spatial spell had fixed each fireball on a different set of coordinates. far apart, but with his death the spell's nature shifted in some way no one can name, and all 9 came screaming toward one target. 9 huge blood-red spheres, breathing that terrible energy, appear out of nowhere over the pink camp, and like silent ghosts, without a shred of mercy, they smash down onto 9 of the shelters below. Even my level 4 shelter could not stand against those flames, and most of these are only level 3, so the instant the fireballs arrive, 9 shelters are leveled and swallowed in a sea of fire. For a cluster of dozens, 9 gone should not be a disaster in theory. The trouble is, these shelters sit very close to one another, and their main structures are mostly built of wood. Inside that cluster, this is precisely the Lord's Alliance Mei Muchong pulled together. She had been napping in comfort on her down bed, waiting for the corruption of her Devil's Mutual Aid contract to finish, when halfway through the process, a violent roar and tremor tore her out of a sweet dream. In the next breath, the world outside was ablaze, crackling wood and human screams on every side. Voices cry out that there is fire, that half a shelter is burned, and the flames will not go out no matter what. That old Wang's whole huge shelter next door has simply vanished. Then a cold notice reaches her, telling her that a severe external attack exceeded the tolerance limit of the demon contract and the corruption has failed. The contract she crafted with such pains and used to cheat the lords into signing is broken outright. Every lord has his autonomy back, and none of them answer to her anymore. Mei Muchong sits frozen on the bed, utterly at a loss, wholly lost, because moments ago she was dreaming of beating Jang Hyun and becoming area chief, and now the waking world is a nightmare she cannot make sense of. I have no idea myself that Heo Singyol's dying counterstroke has just dealt an almost fatal blow to my last remaining rival, clearing the final obstacle on my road to ruling the whole area. If Heo Singyol knew, wherever he is, that his last dance not only failed to trouble me but handed me a gift, he would probably be furious enough to resurrect on the spot. The thought would delight me if I had it. Fittingly, I do not. I reach my territory and check the shelter at once, and it is just as the tunneling ants reported. The 2 surface floors gone, the underground space largely spared. I let my breath out, though the unease lingers. The truth is that ever since I opened the underground space, those 2 surface floors have sat idle a long while, with even the fixtures that came from shelter upgrades, the workbench and the rest, already moved below, so losing them cost me nothing in safety or resources. What actually worries me is that shelter upgrades have always built off the original thatched hut, climbing step by step to a 2-story level 4 building, and now that the main body is gone, I cannot be sure it will not foul up the next upgrade. I decide to ask Will and the others later and set the matter aside. I message Tak Mungyal and tell him to take all the captured spoils and vassals and see to their resettlement. Then I fly Skypillar down from the launch silo to the mech launch platform on the 5th underground floor. The moment I land, I pop the cockpit and jump out, and Will and the other 3, waiting nearby, hurry over. They come at me with a belly full of questions all at once. They ask what happened up there, why I am back after only 2.5 hours, and whether I ran into trouble or already finished the whole job. Baekhyun whines that I never once summoned him when he was dying of impatience to show me his cool side, and Cheongha asks whether I had any problem piloting the mech. I smile and wave them down, telling them not to worry, that there is no big trouble, and that I will answer each of them in turn. So I tell them the whole of it and lay out my worries. When they hear I wiped out the area's biggest enemy in only 2.5 hours, travel and all, the group lights up with excitement. But the moment I add that the main body of my shelter was destroyed, the joy curdles back into worry. Cheongha frowns and comforts me gently, saying that since no extra information prompt came, it should not be a serious problem. Then she reminds me that the manual has an upgrade page, and asks why I do not simply check it to see whether the shelter upgrade options have changed. Her words startle me awake. That really is a good idea, and in my earlier rush, with 100 things to arrange, it never crossed my mind. I take her advice, pick up the manual, and turn to the upgrade page under everyone's watching eyes, and the next second my pupils shrink and I go still. The panel reads that my shelter is a damaged level 4, and that the conditions to upgrade now list control of the area core and a shelter main body. The upgrade conditions have actually changed. Before, the requirement for a level 5 shelter was simple, only control of the area core. But now, with my surface shelter gone, a new line has been added, that I need a shelter main body as well. I have an entire underground city beneath my feet, and that does not count as a main body? Then what does? Those 2 flimsy wooden floors. It stumps me, and I share the conditions with the others, wearing a bitter face and asking whether I am meant to go dig up somebody else's level 4 shelter and haul it home. They study the shared information, frowning too, finding it thorny, and it is Baekhyun with all his family lore who speaks up. He tells me the method I joked about might work but does not sound reliable, and that he has 2 other ideas. I am a little surprised since this carefree fool turns out to be dependable at the pinch, and I feel a rush of gladness and ask him quickly what they are. First, he says, Does my glory functions extra feature not allow me to set up subbases? And he wonders whether seizing a subbase and then promoting it to my main base would work. And second, he has heard his family speak of certain special items that can be turned into shelters and carry many powerful abilities. Such items are exceptionally rare though, and even the Bake family have only heard of a few top powers owning one, so they are truly hard to come by. His voice fills with admiration for such treasures and regret at their scarcity. Special items that convert into a shelter. His words snag at something familiar in me, and all at once my eyes light and I cut in, asking whether the thing he means is like this, because I have a fair idea I am already holding one. While Baekhyun and I are still talking, Tak Mungyel has already directed the ants to carry every spoil of war into the warehouse district, and that of course includes Hyo Singyel's absurdly powerful wizard tower, the thing that could levitate, turn invisible, and even fire space runes. After I killed him, I had the ants comb the surrounding ground again, and turned up no other shelter-like structure, so the instant Baekhyun mentioned items that become shelters, my mind jumps straight to that 3-story western tower. I point lazily at the battered tower the ants dumped in a corner of the warehouse, and Baekhyun blinks, follows my finger, and asks flatly where on earth I dragged this junk from, insisting it does not look the part in the least. By now the tower is pitted all over and caked in mud from the bombardment I gave it. Hardly the picture of a priceless item, but then again that it took 36 compressed energy cannons and kept its basic shape is proof enough of its worth. I shake my head and tell him Hyo Singyul walked out of this tower himself, so it should be his shelter, and with the Hyo family's deep pockets it is entirely reasonable for them to have such a thing. Baekhyun nods, grumbling that the Hyo family are obscenely rich and always threw fortunes at that boy, unlike his own stingy Bake family, then says he has only ever heard of these special items, and never seen one, and suggests we go read the tower's information. We walk over with the whole curious crew, and look, its panel reads as a wizard tower of gold rank, growable, unbound, and damaged. Its motto that all is but appearance and only truth is eternal. It explains that the tower can serve as a shelter, and that once bound one becomes the wizard tower's master and receives the wizard inheritance. Upgrading, it adds, unlocks new floors and new inherited knowledge. It really is an item that turns into a shelter, and more than that, an entire inheritance, a complete and thoroughly orthodox system of power, which leaves Baekhyun and the rest speechless. Unlike the four of them, cobbling together whatever skills suit the road they want to walk, thinking themselves clever, this would have handed a man everything in one piece. Baekhyun stares at it with open envy, cursing that no wonder that idiot Hyo Singyul strutted so, since he plainly had the capital for it, and calling it a waste of heaven's gifts to fall into such hands. He adds, with a grin at me, that it is a good thing I sent the man off early, before he could grow into something truly troublesome. The others nod along, agreeing that Hyo Singyul was strong but simply unlucky to run into me at this stage. My own strength is already monstrous, and I have several helpers besides. 09's mech alone an unbeatable thing. Then Xiongha voices a worry, saying that the tower may be strong but I damaged it, so we do not know whether it still works, and if not, she has no idea how to repair it. I nod and tell her I will try first, and I attempt to bind the tower, but the panel answers that it is damaged and cannot be bound, and that I must repair it before binding, just as she feared, and the tower's information carries no repair method either. Hyo Singyul himself, who took the wizard inheritance, would surely know how to mend it, but the man is dead and gone. Not so much as a speck of dust left, and I can hardly summon his soul back for a chat. I frown, but I do not panic. My right eye flares with golden light as I turn my Eye of Delusion, breaking on the tower, the one skill I have left for this, since the eye can dredge up hidden information, and if even it fails, I will have to find another road. It does not disappoint me. Under the golden glow, fresh lines surface on the tower, telling me it currently stands at 3 floors, with its unlocked abilities being the levitation inscription, the invisibility inscription, and the space rune, and that its damage level sits at 53%, and that repair requires magic metal. So the eye lays bare not just its powers but the very thing I care about most, the damage level and the repair condition. And though I have never laid eyes on magic metal, I have several well-informed teammates, so I am not much worried. Getting exactly the answer I wanted, I feel a surge of good cheer, and on its heels a whole new line of business. If the Eye of Delusion breaking can see through even top-shelf items like this tower, then all across the dark world there must be no shortage of high-grade treasures cracked in battle. I could gather up a batch of discarded ones, mend them, and turn trash to gold. Or I could simply sell paid consultations, reading repair conditions for others. Knowledge is money. As I stand there scheming, Xiongha and the others watch the golden light fade from my eye and my knotted brow smooth into excitement. And knowing I got what I was after, they relax, and Will and Xiongha ask what the tower needs to be fixed. Magic metal, I tell them, and ask whether they have heard of it. The two of them look a little blank, but Baekhyun and 09 both turn thoughtful, as if they know something. Baekhyun speaks first, saying he has learned about magic metal, that it means metals holding elemental energy, of which there are many kinds. On the trade channel, he says, he has seen it run not only rare but wildly expensive, so a tower this large will likely need a considerable pile of it, and the price. I frown and answer, resigned, that however costly it has to be repaired, and besides I pulled a mountain of resources off Heo Sing-yol this time. So using Heo Sing-yol's own resources to mend Heo Sing-yol's own tower is fleecing the sheep with its own wool. Baekhyun gapes, then throws me a thumbs up and calls me shameless in the finest way, promising that once we are back he will reach out to some contacts and see whether he can get me a better price. The moment Baekhyun agrees, 09, silent all this while, suddenly says she might be able to make magic metal herself. The words land like a thunderclap on Baekhyun and me both. I had no wish to see hard-won resources bled away like that, easy as I played it a moment ago while my heart quietly wept. And if 09 can produce magic metal, it would save a staggering sum. Thrift and fortune truly rest on 09. Without her, this team would honestly fall to pieces. Before I can even ask, she goes on, saying that making magic metal takes 3 conditions. The first is a metal able to bear elemental energy, which is easy, since any metal of silver rank or above will serve, and we already have a self-sustaining resource, gold rank siderite, so there is no need to buy anything else. The second is a device to compress energy, pressing elemental energy into the metal, and the principle is the same as the compressed energy gun, so she only needs to build a tool suited to forcing elemental energy into metal, which is little trouble. Hearing 2 conditions already met, I have not even spoken when Baekhyun breaks in, unable to hold back. He blurts to ask what the third is, and crows that 09 is a genius, that he knows how outrageous the price of magic metal is. If she can mass produce it, he says paired with his sales channels, it will print money faster than war. No wonder they say technology is the first productive force. 09 shakes her head gently and tells him to save the talk of selling until my wizard tower is fixed, and not to celebrate too early because the third condition she cannot meet, and that part falls to me. Under everyone's tense, curious stares, she explains that making magic metal, put simply, means transferring elemental energy into metal and storing it there. The first 2 conditions handle the transfer and the storage, she says, while the last demands a specific energy source, a channel to draw elemental energy from. She has 2 roads for it, she says, one being to find a natural zone that already holds elemental energy by hand. Zone, by hand. Before anyone can voice their confusion, she continues, saying natural energy zones are rare, so we should not count on that for now. The second road is easier, she explains, since transporting by hand means having people who command elemental skills release those skills into the compression and storage device she builds, packing the elemental energy into the metal. I nod at that, since compared to some ghostly energy zone, hauling it by hand is plainly simpler, and it is a condition I can meet right now. Not by myself, of course, since I have no elemental skills, but through my territory subjects. Sometime back, Sun Weepung developed the talent pill, which a person can swallow to awaken a talent, and over the last stretch nearly all my subjects have traded for one and used it. None have yet woken an over-talent like mine, but every one of them has roused a latent talent and settled on a field of strength, and among them are plenty who lean toward one element or another. On top of that, a shortage of advancement fragments recently stalled my arena badge upgrade and left me with no use for the fragments. So I had my subjects pour all their points into skill treasure chests instead, and with such a large base a great many skills opened. No small number of them can now release elemental skills. They are relatively weak, so the conversion may run slow, and we can only take it in a crawl. It strikes me as a strange picture, that a thing as fantastical as elemental magic should end up on an assembly line, screwing peculiar bolts. I set the odd thought aside and tell 09 I understand. I will send people to comb the territory for anyone who can release elemental skills and set up a dedicated post to produce magic metal, and I will leave the compression device to her. I look at 09 with a touch of apology and say, in earnest, that I am truly sorry to trouble her every single time. She turns slightly, not meeting my eye, and answers faintly that it is only an interesting experiment, and I should not mind it. By the way, she adds, her mech is suited to beheading, not to sustain battle, so next she will need my ants to help her clear the enemies in her own area. I smile and tell her that the moment I am free I will throw everything into it. She nods and heads off toward the underground laboratory in the warehouse district, saying she will make the equipment now, and the sooner it is done, the sooner it can be put to use. Watching her go, I turn to the others and float a suggestion, that after we clear my area we help 09 clear hers. Next, it is not only guilt that moves me, and I add that her defensive means are thin, and by my own scouting there are a fair number of high-energy shelters within 50 kilometers of her territory, so if we drag our feet she risks being attacked. Will has no objection and nods at once. Cheon-ha nods gently too, saying she has the World Tree, which is poor for taking cities but second to none on defense, so I need not worry over her for the moment. Baekhyun chimes in that he has no problem either, that his glory rank is already respectable. These past days he has swept every shelter inside 30 kilometers of himself and found no strong rivals in his area, so even if the place develops another 10 days or half a month it will pose no threat. I should help 09 first, he insists, because she is practically a money tree and must be well guarded, and whoever dares attack her will have him to answer to. Watching him ham it up, I smile and tell them it is decided. The shelter's main problem is settled, and since I do not yet meet the conditions for a level 5 upgrade, I will simply repair the wizard tower slowly. With nothing else pressing, I will go clean up the stragglers left in the area, if only to see whether taking a whole area early changes anything. Will and the rest nod and tell me to call them anytime if I hit trouble, and I climb into Sky Pillar, fly out from the launch pad, gather the rested ant army, and set out again. Heo Signol's direction is freshly swept, so I change course, though not at random, picking a route thick with high-energy shelters based on what the sentry ants scouted earlier. As it happens, the Lord's Alliance lies right along that path. After the fight with Heo Signol, I have grown far more at ease marching through the dark. My early caution long shed, my moves faster and bolder. Every high-energy shelter along the way has mysteriously vanished besides, leaving only a scatter of survivors who never swore themselves to any lord. And while these survivors are not weak, since a weakling could never have lasted so many days alone, set against me they are nothing. Piloting Sky Pillar, I do not even trouble to act myself. Just let the overwhelming tide of ants roll forward, and these people who held out over half a month give up their grit and get packaged up with their resources and carried off to feed my territory. I sweep ahead like a black flood and meet no decent resistance at all, so smooth it is almost eerie. Sitting in the cockpit I frown, feeling something is off, wondering where all these lords have gone. I have covered most of the area, and beyond Heo Signol I have run into nothing worth the name. I am not so naive as to think the lords have simply fled. They are surely plotting something that could threaten me. Worst case, every one of the vanished lords is banded together, and a single chopstick snaps easily while a bundle of dozens or hundreds will not break to any man's strength. And if they hold some formation skill that grows fiercer with numbers, it turns nastier still, so that even a lucky win would cost me too much and miss my whole aim. I sigh softly, then my gaze hardens again, and I tell myself that whatever it is, I have to go see, and decide my next move by what I find. I press on, folding the region into my domain, and an hour and a half slips by. My advance rolls on unbroken. If the whole area were a mooncake, only about a fifth of it, one small wedge, remains outside my hand, and at my pace it would take barely half an hour to swallow that last piece. Yet I feel no ease of unification, only a spirit wound tighter and tighter, because even now there is no trace of the missing lords, as if they truly left the area. As I near this final stretch, even the scattered survivors have gone, leaving a dead, silent land. It gives me a quiet premonition that I am about to meet the vanished lords at last. The last stretch of any road is the hardest, so at this final turn I grow more careful still, slowing my pace, sending sentry ants ahead to scout and following close with the main force, advancing only where they confirm it clear. Another 15 minutes pass, and just as I am strung tight, Swift Shadow reports that she has detected a situation ahead. It is finally here. I am not afraid, only relieved, because sometimes the unknown is the true source of fear, and once a thing lies bare and it is time for real work, it is never such a great matter after all. I want to see what they are all doing, gathered up like this. I stop at once and press Swift Shadow for detail, and she tells me there are 75 shelters linked together ahead, and that by their energy intensity and the aura they give off, these are without doubt the lords that vanished. It is them then, though I still cannot say by what method they moved so many together. She goes on, saying they seem to have been attacked, the whole camp in chaos, that they took heavy losses and their auras have weakened badly, and that conflict has broken out among them and they are fighting each other. I go still, hardly able to trust my ears. In the whole area, the only real powers were myself, Heo Signol, and this alliance thrown together by who knows who. And I was just locked in a hard battle with Heo Signol, a 2-hour road between me and this camp, so who on earth hit the alliance while I was busy? To gut so large a force single-handed, their strength would have to be terrifying, and I am wholly baffled, unable to grasp why my area alone is so tangled, when 09s and the others were clean and simple. Whatever the cause, an alliance in disarray is a golden opening for me, and I cannot fret over the rest, only strike while the iron glows, so I shake off the puzzle and drive the ant army straight forward. By now the Lord's alliance is in total ruin. The lords had just been under the corruption of Mei Musheng's demonic mutual aid contract, and though the corruption broke in Heo Signol's fireball, falling from the sky midway, jolted them awake, their minds are still fogged, their thoughts not fully their own. Rather than suspecting Mei Musheng, the one who founded the whole alliance, they turn on the rivals they always feuded with, cursing one another in the alliance chat, and some lords with black mist immunity even run out to strike their enemies' shelters directly. Mei Musheng shouts herself hoarse, begging them all to calm down, to no use at all. And just as she is faltering, a savage premonition falls on her, heavy and solid, pressing the breath from her chest. She knows with sinking certainty that of all moments it had to be this one. Her flustered heart settles into flat despair, and she collapses onto the down sofa with a bitter face. Mei Musheng holds a skill called Sixth Sense, not the vague woman's intuition, but a real silver rank ability that can dimly gauge the weight of a threat. And the threat it just read is enough to crush her hope, an intensity beyond anything she has felt. In this area, only 2 people could bring such pressure to bear, and she cannot tell whether they found her by chance or whether the 2 of them have already settled which is stronger. Whether the one coming is Jang Hyun or Heo Singyo. She sighs and gives up the struggle whole, forces her limp body up, walks out the door and sees a sight she will never forget as long as she lives. Giant mechs, hovering airships, an ocean of vast ants. Any one of those elements alone would be more than she could handle, and that mech most of all gives her a fathomless dread, as if it could sweep her entire Lord's alliance from the board by itself even at full strength. A deep weariness hangs on her face, yet she smiles with something like relief. All her scheming, all her quiet pride in her plots, and her scope was still too small, because against true power, against absolute strength, all of it is smoke. She surrenders resistance entirely, and oddly her mood loosens, a charming smile creeping back onto her pretty face as she looks up at the mech and asks who has graced them with their presence, and whether they would be willing to speak with a humble one like Mushang. I look down at the woman who has walked out of the shelter below, and after a moment's search, I place her, and I ask, not quite certain, whether she is Mei Mushang, and who runs this alliance. She covers her mouth and laughs sweetly, calling herself Muchang, insisting there is no such thing as an alliance, merely a little workshop where everyone huddles together for warmth, and that through everyone's kindness, she has taken temporary charge, and I must forgive her for the poor showing. Her words surprise me a little, and I give her a long look. In my memory, Mei Muchang is still that minor lord playing coy on the area channel to reel in survivors, hardly worth a glance. I never guessed she had quietly pulled off something this grand, a coalition of nearly every lord in the area. I nod and grant her that I underestimated her, that she is impressive. She keeps that alluring smile and says, with great tact, that Muchang has only a scrap of cleverness, that before a great one like me she is a mantis raising its arms at a chariot. Then she asks why I have honored them with my presence, and whether there is anything she can do for me. Her manner pleases me, and I say plainly that since she is so understanding, we can spare ourselves any real conflict. If she wants to live there is only one road, to submit to me, not shallow submission but a direct application to become my vassal. I ask whether she objects. She lowers her head a fraction and says softly that Muchang has no objection at all, that it is her greatest honor to serve a strong one like me, but that she has a small suggestion if she may be allowed to offer it. A suggestion. I cannot quite read her, but since she surrenders so smoothly there is no harm in a moment's listen, and I tell her to speak. With my leave, she lifts her head again, bearing a long fair neck, her cheeks flushed and her eyes gone soft as silk. She looks at me where I have driven the mech closer, with both allure and worship, and says in a tender, slightly hoarse voice that Mushang loves strong ones, above all one as powerful as me. Merely becoming a vassal is not enough to hold her admiration. She breathes, so she wants to be nearer to me. She wants to become my servant, and she asks whether that is all right. Slowly she kneels, arching her body to show its proud lines, and raises both hands holding a parchment scroll, saying this is a master-servant mutual aid contract she came by through luck, and that she now offers it to me. Her whole posture, inviting me to take as I please, carries a peculiar magic that would flatten most men, and even holding my composure my throat works and I nearly slip. But I keep that last thread of wariness, draw a deep breath, claw back some calm, and order swift shadow, my voice a touch dry, to have a sentry ant bring the thing over. Soon a winged sentry ant darts to Mei Muchang, takes the parchment from her hand, flies it up, and passes it to me in the cockpit. I take the scroll and read it close. Its panel calls it a master-servant mutual aid contract of gold rank, one where you choose a target and upon signing, a master-servant bond forms, the master holding absolute control over the servant, able to peer into the servant's inner thoughts and command the servant to do anything. Around the text runs a ring of strange, lovely patterns, and below sit 2 areas, one for the master's signature and one for the servant's. The information is simple and clean, and it looks like there is nothing wrong with it. Reading it, though, I cannot help puzzling. Could Mei Muchang have some peculiar taste that she would willingly hand over so binding a contract? I look down at her, still holding that kneeling pose, seductive and yielding, as if she were truly and wholly conquered. Would things really go this smoothly? I frown, sure something is off, and I run back over everything she has done. A woman who quietly knit 75 lords into an alliance does not surrender this easily, and if this is not a backup plan, then what is? And yet under so strong a contract, one that lets me read her heart at will, how could she work any plan at all? Unless signing the master-servant contract and becoming my servant is itself the plan. Wait, something clicks, a glint sparks in my eye, and I look at the scroll again, only this time not merely reading it, my right eye flaring gold as I turn the eye of delusion breaking on the parchment. The information shifts. It now reads as a master-servant mutual aid contract of gold rank, modified, with a note that the contract's rules were altered through demonic script, swapping the master and servant signature areas, modifying the very rules of a contract. Such a method exists. A cold sweat breaks over me on the instant, and looking down at her kneeling there, soft and inviting, not a ripple stirs in me now. only a wave of lingering dread. What a vicious little trick, one there was almost no guarding against. And if not for that last thread of wariness and an eye of delusion breaking that Pierce's illusion to the truth, I would have walked straight into it and been the one bound. Below, Mei Muchang feels her knees going numb, since holding this alluring curve to lower my guard is no easy work. Seeing me go so long without reacting, she peeks up and says, shy and coaxing, that surely I am not ready yet and should hurry. That Muchang wants to be my servant sooner, so that she can. She has barely finished her honeyed suggestion when the mech flings a parchment scroll down to her side, and I tell her, flat, that alright, she should sign her name too. She is overjoyed, plainly thinking that no matter how strong a man is, he cannot resist her honey trap, and she nearly fails to master her face, catching a smug smile just in time and ducking her head to hide it as she picks up the scroll. She opens it, and in the next second the smile freezes solid. On the servant's line stand two large characters, Jong Hyun. The master's line is blank. She swallows the bad feeling and asks, trembling, whether master signed the wrong place. I show her no mercy. After that stunt, I have lost all patience with her, and my voice comes out ice, telling her enough nonsense, sign or die. Before the words even land, I pull Skypillar's giant sniper rifle from its back and level it at her below. I have to say, 09 Skypillar earns its keep, since with that rifle drawn, I have yet to meet a soul who does not back down. And though it has barely been fired in earnest, the sheer deterrence saves me no end of effort. Seeing me draw so huge a weapon without a word, Mei Muchang wilts completely. Her skill is called Devil's Script, letting her quietly rewrite a contract's rules through her own devilish text, which by rights should be a fearsome ability. Yet 2 uses in a row have failed and snared her instead, and for a moment she doubts her whole life. With the great black scythe hunting ants closing another few steps, their scythe jaws nearly at her throat, she dares not stall. She agrees sourly to skip the direct confrontation for now, and simply become a vassal, telling herself she refuses to believe her charm cannot win me over yet. Then she scrawls her crooked name on the master-vassal contract. The moment her name is written, she feels a bond snap tight to me sitting in the mech before her, as if her whole soul no longer belongs to her. And I, the instant the contract takes hold, feel a strange sensation too, a flood of information about her rising into my mind from nowhere. If I wished, I could know everything she knows and thinks. A person's full record is vast though, and I have no time to read it all, only to glance over her abilities. Her skills are varied, as if she took a partial inheritance from a creature called a devil, chiefly the Devil's Script that rewrites contracts, the fire element damage skill Inferno Flame, and a handful of auxiliary powers, Excitation Whip, Fanatic Mist, and Devil's Charm. That last one, I realize, is why I was so eager to sign a breath ago, and did not think to turn my eye of delusion breaking on the contract's flaw at once, because I had unknowingly slipped under her Devil's Charm. Her tricks are unconventional, and she just tried them on me, but now that she is my subordinate, all of it will work for me, so I let the earlier offense go. I wave the black scythe hunting ant's jaws back from her throat and ask her whether everyone else left in the area is with her, telling her I am in a hurry and to have them apply to become my vassals. She feels my command reach straight into her heart with a weight she cannot refuse, and she answers quickly, half afraid, begging my pardon and calling herself useless. About 2.5 hours ago, she explains, 9 blood-red fireballs appeared out of nowhere and battered the whole camp and shattered her mutual aid contract, so she can no longer command these lords. 9 fireballs. That stops me, and I do not blame her, my attention swinging instead to the fireballs she names. If I recall right, the skill Hyo Sing-yul loosed at his death was exactly 10 fireballs, one of which came down on my shelter and blew my level 4 building apart. I have been curious where the other 9 flew, and I never dreamed they all landed on Mei Muchang's alliance. A strange look crosses my face, and a flicker of pity comes into my eyes, because Hyo Sing-yul's dying fireballs were no joke, and she took 9 of them, truly unlucky. No wonder the alliance is so gutted. After all that, it seems I still have to do the work myself. I shake my head and murmur that never mind, I will handle it, and I tell Mowal to use squad tactics and fold in these routed remnants. She answers at once that she hears me and obeys, and under her command, the black scythe hunting ants and the sentry ants bearing compressed energy guns form dozens of combat squads, swarm into the alliance camp, spread out, and break down doors. The already broken lords cannot resist them at all. Short shouts and small explosions flare and quickly die, and a string of vassal applications rolls in, Li Pyo among them, Guak Inwu among them, and I approve them all without a close look. Once the squads finish clearing every shelter I count roughly, and only 59 people sent applications, well short of the Alliance's original 75, the missing being the unlucky ones killed in the fireball strike and the chaos after. It is a pity, but I do not dwell on it, because without Hyo Sing-yul's heaven-sent divine justice, I would never have had it this easy, going through the motions to conquer a force of 75 lords. I checked the time, only half an hour gone, and with the earlier hour and a half of marching it is 2 hours all told. And adding the ride home, I will still have 2 hours of black mist immunity left, which I can pair with tomorrow's window. so I delay no longer and order Moel to take every vassal and all the resources and return to the territory at full speed. She acts instantly, having the ants load the newly surrendered lords and their own vassals onto hovering ants. Though each lord kept few vassals, together they come to over 2,000 people. Humans being far more fragile than ants, it takes a full 10 hovering ants to hold them all without anyone crushed on the road. Mei Muchang protests that she does not want to be crammed in with all those smelly men, and Mowal, giving her no special treatment for being my vassal, was about to shove her in with the rest. Facing Moel's pleading query, I only shake my head and tell her to inform Mei Muchang that she either squeezes in with people, or squeezes in with ants and goods, or runs home on her own 2 feet, and that there are no other choices. Moel relays it without a shred of courtesy, and Mei Muchang, wanting neither the people nor daring the ants, sourly picks the hovering ant loaded with cargo. So on the way back she rides jammed among the sundries, disheveled and near tears, wondering whether my heart is forged of iron. She feels a little lost, a dark future looming, her faith in her own charm badly shaken. Serves her right. I pilot Skypillar home laden with ants and spoils. By now I have subdued every lord and every ordinary survivor in the whole area, not one escaping my grasp, yet along the road no message comes to say I have become area chief, and I am let down and a little confused. Strange, I think. I have brought every survivor in the area under me, so why is that not enough? Could there be other conditions to meet? I chew on it as I travel, and then my eyes brighten as I recall the level 5 upgrade condition. Control of the area core. The requirement to become area chief is very likely tied to this area core, and though I have conquered the whole area, I have not once seen any so-called core, whether because the timing is wrong or because I missed something. With no lead to follow, I stop racking my brain and just focus on the road, and as planned it takes exactly 1 hour to reach my territory, where I finally let my strung nerves loosen. I smile a little and tell Moel to contact Tak Mungyel and have him help her settle the goods and vassals, thanking her for her hard work, and she shakes her small head and says this is Moel's duty, then hurries off to it. I fly Skypillar down underground, open the cockpit, and draw a deep breath of the air the shelter's fresh air system has cleaned. Then I spread the light wings the healing ants form behind me and leap straight from the cockpit over 40 meters up, down to where my teammates already wait on the 5th underground floor. Before they can ask, I smile first and tell them it all went smoothly, that every survivor in the territory is now under my hand, and they breathe out in relief. Xiongha asks with an easy smile whether I missed anyone and whether I got the message about becoming area chief, which is what the others wondered too, and they all watch me for the answer. I shake my head, helpless, and tell them that unless there is a hidden ability like Heo Singyol's wizard tower, the sentry ant's detection is almost never wrong, so there should be no gaps in the area, yet I did not receive the chief notice. Baekhyun frowns, puzzled, saying that does not sound right, that the old hands in his clan mentioned intelligence about the area chief. Some extremely powerful anomalies had already become area chiefs days ago, he says, so by rights, having swept the whole area, I ought to be able to claim it early. Someone became area chief days ago, that fast. The Bake family's information network is reliable, so the report is likely sound, and the flicker of smugness I had a moment ago fades. I shake my head and say that by my read it should tie to the area core, but I do not know what the area core actually is, or what makes it appear. Baekhyun spreads his hands and admits that his Bake family currently has no relevant experience, and that intelligence on the area chief spreads very rarely, so he is afraid he cannot help. I tell him easily that it is fine, that there are always some roads a man has to feel his way across, that it is not urgent and a relevant announcement should come later, and that in the meantime they should sweep their own areas first. The others nod, and then 09's rather flat voice cuts in again, telling me she has already finished building the equipment for making magic metal. While I was out, she says, she even set up a magic metal production line, and Tak Mungyel has arranged a group of subjects with elemental abilities to start on it. I have coveted the wizard tower a long while, and her speed catches me off guard, so it seems repairing the tower is close at hand, and I look at her with some gratitude and thank her. She stays flat, shaking her head, telling me not to celebrate too soon. Though these people in the territory hold some elemental abilities, she says, their strength is too low, and the quantity and quality of the energy they release falls short, so they can only charge the equipment 1 hour a day before their energy runs dry, and at this rate mending the tower will take at least a month. A month. We have been in the Dark World a little over a month all told, and waiting that long, the whole dish would be stone cold by then. I ask, a touch bitter, whether there is any way to speed it up. She nods gently and says faintly that there is, that I should find people with stronger elemental abilities to charge the equipment and convert the metal, or acquire potions that replenish elemental energy and hand them to the line workers to stretch their hours. My earlier gloom lifts into cheer at that, and I say what a coincidence, that I just subjugated a batch of vassals, among them many lords and powerful lone wolves. No small number of them command elemental abilities, so this is a fine chance to let them join the big family of the underground city quickly, through labor and contribution. The others go blank in the face at how fresh and refined I make exploitation sound, and even 09 nearly cannot hold it, turning her head away from me. Down in the underground city, in the plaza, I have brought back too many newcomers this time. Even with Tak Mung-yeol having recruited a crowd of capable administrators and streamlined the management and record keeping, he has run off his feet, taking a full hour to compile everyone's information and arrange their lodging. He tells them to go to their assigned dormitory buildings and settle in first. A booklet on each dormitory desk lays out the underground city's laws and rules, along with some recommended jobs, he adds, and any further questions can go to the office hall on the 20th floor of Building 1. He reminds them that their identity now is subject of Lord Jonghyun, all of them equal, and that whoever wants to raise their standing and treatment should earn it with achievements and contributions to the underground city and to me. Anyone caught leaning on their strength to bully subjects, he warns, will find the consequences plainly written in the law. Then he dismisses them and leads his people away, leaving a crowd of newcomers behind, excited, nervous, bewildered, and stunned all at once. Many lords are mixed among them, and having gathered a few ideas about me after coming to their senses, they are wholly convinced the moment they see the magnificent underground city, and they follow the crowd meekly to check in. I have already gone back to the office waiting for the new subjects to settle before assigning tasks, when a familiar voice suddenly speaks in my mind, unbidden. It tells me the current area has only one lord remaining, and that the area core dungeon is opening early. I am startled. Then my face floods with wild joy, because happiness has come too fast, when a moment ago I was still fretting over the area core, and now the intelligence has walked itself to my door. But why announce it now and not the instant I conquered the whole area? I glance at the manual as if grasping something, and find it has just passed 6 in the morning. I wonder whether the Dark World checks the count of area lords promptly at 6 each day, and opens the area core dungeon early once the condition is met. If so, I must help Will and the others clear their areas before 6 so as not to waste a day, though this is only a rough guess and still needs proof. I set the thought down and read the dungeon's information. The panel tells me the area core dungeon opens after the eternal night ends, or opens early when the area has only one lord left, and that once open it can be entered through the manual. I open the manual and find that a page after the glory function, blank before, now shows the area core dungeon, and a light touch brings up a prompt asking whether I want to enter. That simple. My face stiffens, but I do not agree straight off, since I know neither the difficulty of the place nor how long it takes. My territory has just taken in a flood of people and sits in some disorder, so at the very least I should be fully prepared and see the newcomers settled before I step in. I withdraw my finger, choose no for now, take out a communication ant, and contact Tak Mung-yeol, asking how the new batch's information is coming. He tells me their strength, abilities, and specialties are all compiled and that he is working out which departments to assign them to. I nod and tell him well done, and to pick out everyone with elemental abilities and gather them in the plaza, because I have good tasks for them. He is sharp, tying it at once to the wizard tower repair, and agrees quickly and heads off to the dormitory area to carry it out. Most of the newcomers, above all those who were vassals under various lords, find it hard to believe how my territory runs once they understand it. Set against the freedom and treatment here, their old lives were the lives of slaves, and each of them is filled with regret. They mutter that their heads must have been kicked by a donkey, to ignore a conscientious lord like Boss Jonghyun, and follow some weak, blood-sucking waste of a lord instead. They thought a small lord short on people would make it easy to rise to a core member, only to be treated like beasts of burden. But the hard days are over now, and with Boss Jonghyun a little effort will leave them no worse off than those vampires ever were. Soon they leave their dormitories and throw themselves into the running of the underground city. But a handful stay put, gathered in one room, talking loud, and anyone who knew them would spot familiar faces from the Lord's Alliance. At the head of the table sits a bearded big man, none other than Lee Pyo the mole Heo Singyul had planted inside the Alliance, on whom Heo Singyul's death seems to have left no mark at all. He slams the table, clutching the instruction manual, and rages that setting aside their old lord identities, their strength alone ranks among the best in the whole area, that anywhere else they would be honored guests. Then he demands to know what all this in the manual is. Farming, raising chickens, scrubbing toilets, asking what they are being taken for, and snarling that I go too far. Fired up by him, the others chime in with shared resentment. One says that just talking about it makes him angry. Another fumes that some fellow named Tak Mung-yeol, a mere supervisor, dared glare and scold them without weighing his own strength, and would have been slapped already if not for me standing behind him. A third insists they were beaten by Boss Jonghyun fairly enough, but should at least be given tasks that match their strength. And someone suggests the supervisor's own post would suit Brother Pio nicely. The last declares that the Dark World prizes strength, that they have it, so why should they do hard labor, swearing he would sooner starve or be beaten to death than do chores, and urging them all to go protest to Boss Jonghyun together. Just as they are working themselves higher, a knock comes at the door with a shout to open up, cutting off their heated talk. They trade glances, faces caught between embarrassment and panic at being found out, all frozen, and Lee Pio, quickest to react, rises and opens the door to find Tak Mung-yeol standing there, and not only him, but a squad of gold-ranked black scythe ants behind him. Tak Mung-yeol sweeps the room with a glance and frowns, asking what is going on, locking the door so tight in broad daylight. Feeling the cold killing intent off the gold rank ants, Lee Pyo drops his earlier rudeness and says with a nervous laugh that they are only used to caution in the dark world. He locked the door out of habit, he claims, and they were merely discussing the details in the manual. Tak Mung-yeol gives him a meaningful look and says he had better be discussing the details. Then he scans the room and continues, that good everyone is here, that only Go-jun and Jo-jigyeon are left, and they should come with him because Lord Boss Jong-hyun has good tasks for them. Good tasks. The men trade glances, and then a slightly fawning voice pipes up, Jo-jigyeon, calling out that he is coming, that he is Ju-jigyeon, and to just say what needs doing. This is the very man who a breath ago swore he would sooner die than do chores, and Go-jun, the one who cursed Tak Mung-yeol the fiercest. Watching the two follow Tak Mung-yeol out, the rest cannot help spitting, disgusted that the shameless pair just agreed to protest and betrayed the cause the instant they heard the words good tasks. Then they recall the cold-killing intent of those gold-ranked black scythe ants and shudder, remembering that Boss Jong-hyun keeps thousands of the things, and their little schemes evaporate on the spot. One mutters that he will go to the farmland to gather some intelligence and see how Boss Jang-hyun feeds so many troops. Another that he will go to the livestock area to do the same. Watching his allies of a moment ago scatter, Lee Pyo doubts his whole life, clenching his fists and slowly opening them a few times. At last he sighs in surrender that he too will go find a job, to gather some intelligence. Tak Mung-yeol heads for the plaza with Jo-jigyeon, and seeing no odd moves from the two along the way, he feels a little let down. He had brought the squad of black scythe hunting ants on my instruction, since I worried the newcomers might lean on their scrap of strength and refuse to cooperate or even threaten him. He had meant to seize the chance to discipline them, to make an example of one and warn the rest, and ease his later management. But the instant these people saw the black scythe hunting ants, they dropped to their knees, leaving him punching air and thoroughly out of sorts. By now 30 or 40 people have gathered in the plaza, all of them holding elemental abilities, and among them Mei Muchung stands out sharply from the crowd. Tak Mung-yeol brings the last two over, glances at her, and thinking of the task I assigned her cannot help a strange expression, marveling that a beauty like this and I am really willing to part with her, while Mei Muchung, catching his odd look, frowns in confusion. He clears his throat and announces that the Lord recently set up a new production line and needs people with elemental abilities to work it. It is a fine job with generous benefits, he says, and they are lucky to meet it right off the boat and should seize the chance. By the Lord's instruction, he adds, Mei Muchung will serve as their section chief, responsible for the whole line's output, and then he tells them to follow him. A good job, only to screw bolts on an assembly line. They are stunned, and before they can protest, the black scythe hunting ants escort them down to the 5th underground floor. Mei Muchung stands on the edge of tears, never having dreamed that I would not only fail to favor her, but would be heartless enough to make her a factory girl, a section chief no less. The job surely does not match her skills at all. I am not singling her out though. In making magic metal, the stronger the elemental ability, the higher the output, and Mei Muchung with her Inferno Flame holds one of the strongest among all the vassals, which makes her a very fit choice to run a line. With the production line settled, I go to check on the ants' recovery, since in the recent fight for the area core, while few of my ants died, a fair number were hurt, and on returning I had the healing ants treat them at once. My inspection finds that apart from a small few still being pulled back from severe wounds, most have already returned to health, and I breathe out in relief and turn to go somewhere quiet to open the dungeon, then stop short. I wonder about the intensity of the place, and about what forces I can bring in with me, and to be safe I ought to borrow 09's Sky Pillar. So I change course again and fly to the 5th underground floor, find 09 in a mechanical laboratory, and explain my purpose, and I successfully borrow the Sky Pillar and climb into the cockpit. I hold the joystick and shake my head with a smile, remarking that ever since Sky Pillar was built, it seems I am the one always using it, and that I feel a bit guilty about it. I say my piece, then pick up the manual, turn to the dungeon page, and pause a moment on the words, Area Core Dungeon. Telling myself that with my current strength there is nothing to fear, I draw a deep breath and touch the text lightly with my right fingertip. The prompt asks whether I want to enter the Area Core Dungeon, and I confirm it. At once my consciousness drops into a void, and when it returns I look down first and find myself still inside Sky Pillar's cockpit, which eases me a little, since as long as I have Sky Pillar I am at least in no mortal danger. Then I try to summon my mutual aid contract ants, the way I do in the arena or in simulated combat, and in the next second ants appear swiftly on the ground before the mech. Seeing them come, I relax entirely, murmuring with a small smile that it seems this Area Core Dungeon puts no limit on the power I can bring. I look around and find myself in a vast space full of birdsong, the scent of flowers, and dense trees, a spring-like world in stark contrast to the biting cold outside, almost a paradise. But I do not drop my guard, because this is a place where many lords contend for the Area Core. It cannot be as simple as it looks, and there must be some danger here. So I search carefully again, and near the center of the space I find a rusted, moss-covered stone tablet, and the moment I draw near, A mysterious voice asks whether I want to begin the selection. It seems the key lies in this tablet, though I do not know the exact method of the selection, and apart from the tablet I find no other special thing. So with no way to leave now, I can only see it through to the end. I summon all my ants and array them by troop type, and once every preparation is made, I very cautiously choose to begin. Another ethereal voice comes from all directions, telling me the selection begins, that monsters will appear in 3 minutes, that I must protect the stone tablet, and that if the tablet is destroyed, I lose the right to contend for the area core and am teleported out. Hearing it, I cannot help a strange look, because spawning monsters and protecting a tablet feels oddly familiar, exactly the classic protect the goddess mode from so many role-playing games back on Blue Star, and being well versed in it, I clearly understand the strategy. Protect the goddess, or now the stone tablet. The heart of these games is to kill each wave as fast as possible, and never let monsters from different waves pile together, because too many at once risks some slipping through to the tablet. I only wonder whether it is precisely the mode I know. While I turn it over, the 3 minutes quietly pass, and then beast roars break from every side, followed by a run of heavy stomping that trembles the ground. And before I can think further, great wild ox-like beasts, heads lowered and giant horns raised, charge together at the tablet with red in their eyes. In my hurry, I give their information a quick glance. Giant horned wild oxen of silver rank. Seeing so many of them, I do not panic at all. I break into an eager grin. Every one of them is a silver rank mutated beast, and there are so many, and this time I am going to get rich. For any other lord in the area, a stampede of this many silver-ranked giant-horned wild oxen would be cause to panic, maybe even to bolt from the instance outright. But to me, these ferocious-looking things are only cattle filing onto a slaughterhouse line. They come rushing in one after another, to be cut down by my black scythe hunting ants. The ones at the front kill the giant-horned wild oxen. The ones behind them strip each carcass into meat, beast cores, and hides, and the ones at the back haul every scrap up onto the waiting hovering ants. The whole thing flows without a hitch, as if being butchered were simply these oxen's fixed and proper fate. As the minutes pass, the thunder of hooves fades, and before I have even settled, a fresh notice rises in my mind, telling me the first wave is wiped out early, and the second will appear in 2 minutes. I nod at that, gathering that each wave carries a time limit, and that if the limit runs out, the next wave spawns whether or not I have cleared the last one. It strikes me that if I deliberately spared the final monster of a wave and left it breathing, the next wave would not start early and I could steal more rest. But a trick like that is beneath me. Better to finish the business fast, so I let the thought go. Soon another roar rolls in from the distance, louder and more chaotic than the first, yet otherwise no different. And 10 seconds later, familiar shapes come bursting from the surrounding brush. Another herd of giant horned wild oxen. These ones a touch stronger than the last. My face lights up and I call my orders down through the contract, telling Mowol to keep her tribe working, and Swift Shadow to take charge of the loading. And both queens answer at once that they hear me and obey. Then the new oxen charge in and start down the very same road, turning into slabs of meat. With the first wave behind me, the sight holds no interest at all, so I ease the seat in Sky Pillar's cockpit back, find a comfortable recline, and half lie there while it all plays out. Making money lying down, I think, is a fine way to spend a morning. I am the last lord left in the whole area, which means I am the only one in this instance. Yet an area core dungeon is a large place built to hold who knows how many lords, so guarding one stone tablet cannot be the whole of it, and there must be some competitive element besides. I cannot say what shape it takes, or whether being the only one here has changed anything. With no answer to hand, I set the riddle aside and watch the black scythe hunting ants harvest below through half-closed eyes. 10 minutes on, the second wave lies dead as well, and though I never bother to count the oxen, I know that 31 hovering ants are already brimming with their materials. If I had to raise this much silver rank stock off my own farm, a full month of work would not manage it. So this is an outright bumper harvest. Excellent, I murmur. With all of this, I can keep growing my army. This place is practically a bonus stage, and I look up at the loaded hovering ants in the sky and smile, hungry for the next wave. I do not wait long. A minute after the last ox of the second wave falls, the third wave begins, but this time there is no great roar to herald it, and that oddity puts a frown on my face. I raise the cockpit seat upright again and look hard in every direction, and soon a rustling comes from the forest to the east. I turn and see a giant bull, 5 meters at the shoulder, its pair of massive curved horns and its coat both shimmering with a faint golden luster, its eyes lit with the same gold, the whole of it looking terribly high grade. Before I can study it, more rustling follows, and 9 more of the golden giants stride out to line up beside the first. 10 in all, every eye fixed on my side of the field. Standing shoulder to shoulder, they make a wall, a thick, golden, imposing wall, and even sealed inside Sky Pillar, I can feel the weight of them press against me. My pupils tighten and a golden light flares in my right eye as I read their information. They are golden-horned savage bulls of gold rank, carrying the abilities Rock-Solid Brutal Charge, War Stomp, Light Energy Bullet, and Boiling Blood, and their weaknesses are their eyes, the inner joints of their hind legs, and the groin. 10 gold rank beings then, though given the aura rolling off them it would be stranger if they were anything less. And even among gold rank these plainly stand at the top. I let out a long breath, gaze locked on the 10 unmoving bulls. And though I cannot fathom why they hold their ground, I have no wish to sit in a stalemate. So I give my orders in a rush. I tell Mowal to run squad combat and divide and conquer, and Swift Shadow to array the assassination squad for an encircling fight and wait for the chance to strike the bulls' weak points with the compressed energy guns. Leisure Cloud is to charge the compressed energy cannon and hold, firing at Mowal's word when the moment is right. The three answer as one that they hear me and obey, and set to work. The combat squads surge forward, each made of 5 black scythe hunting ants and 10 sentry ants, aiming for their marks to break the bulls apart. As many ants as I keep, their great size means only so many can crowd in at once, and this small squad shape brings the most out of every attack. As the squads close, the change comes. All 10 golden horned savage bulls open their mouths together, golden orbs of light kindling within, and the instant I see the light I understand. This is the light energy bullet. This is why they stood so still, secretly gathering energy for a long-range strike. And by the angle of their heads, the target is that mysterious stone tablet. As expected of gold rank beasts, they carry real cunning, even knowing to hide their intent. My face hardens and I drop all thought of watching the show. I drive Skypillar forward, draw the mech greatsword off its back, plant my right foot hard, and use the rebound to throw myself in front of the tablet just as I slash out at the 10 bullets screaming toward it. Skypillar, 40 meters and more of it, looks all bulk and no grace, and though the 10 light energy bullets fall short of the speed of light, they far outrun sound, arriving at the tablet almost in the same breath they are fired. Yet at that last instant, my clumsy-seeming greatsword, swung with everything Skypillar has, leaves a trail of afterimages, sets out late and lands first, and shatters all 10 bullets like a man swatting flies. The bullseyes go wide, a startlingly human shock on those bestial faces, and before they can act, the 10 combat squads split them up and ring them in, every strike hunting a weak point until the whole herd looks overwhelmed. But top-tier gold-ranked beasts are not so easily undone, and they steady fast into a defensive shape and begin to hit back, and each blow that lands on a black scythe hunting ant does no small harm. At this rate, even a win would cost me heavily among the ants, so I change plans on the spot and step in with the greatsword myself. I pick out the one bull rampaging through my ants like some deranged demon king, and before it can gloat, my greatsword sweeps in level and slams it flying, sending it rolling across the ground, spitting blood the whole way. 10 minutes later, the last golden-horned savage bull loses its head to my sword, and the third wave is finished at last. I lift the blood-smeared Skypillar slowly up off a bull's carcass and look at the greatsword in its hand with equal parts thrill and surprise. Long as I have piloted Skypillar, I only ever used it as a scare before, and this is my first true all-out fight, my first real feel of what it can do. Is this platinum rank power, I wonder, that even 10 top-tier gold rank beasts cannot last a single bout against it? And I sigh at the sheer chasm that yawns between gold and platinum. Then a colder thought sobers me. Numerous as my ants are, I could have won that just now regardless of losses. But it would have been nothing like this easy. Skypillar is 09's work after she reached the first tier, while I have stood at the first tier a good while myself. So why is the gap between us so wide? Perhaps my ants must break through to platinum rank before they command that kind of strength. An ant army seems a great convenience, but every gain has its price, and the road to raising my power runs that much harder for it. Once this instance ends, I will need to find Wang Heian and work out how to push the ants across quickly. I am still inside though, and dwelling on it will not help. So I shake it off and look around again. Mowal is directing the ants to dismember the golden-horned savage bulls and load them up. Nearly done now, and though there are only 10 of them, their bodies run so far above the silver rank oxen that the butchering takes a full 5 minutes. Something else pricks at me as I watch. In the earlier waves, even the slowest reinforcements arrived within 3 minutes, and it has now been 5 with no alert at all. So perhaps 3 waves is the whole of the tablet's guard. Just as the doubt settles, a faint trembling reaches me, and I trace it to the very stone tablet I have been protecting, shivering in place. The tremor mounts, fine grains of fresh soil shaking loose from the ground around its base, and not daring to wreck anything, I only watch in silence, sensing that the tablet's stirring must be the next step of the trial. Soon it breaks free of the earth, and floats into the air, then shrinks by some marvel until it is palm-sized, and as it drops, I reach out and catch it. A new notice arrives, telling me I have obtained 1 area core fragment and that 10 fragments together synthesize an area core. The message fades, and the next second 9 intricately patterned light arrays bloom in the open ground ahead. I know them well, near twins of the teleportation arrays I have used so long, so these must have the same function, and linking that to the last message I understand at once. 10 fragments make an area core. I hold 1, and there are 9 teleportation arrays, so surely each array hides a fragment of its own. I do not rush in though, only stroke my chin and keep thinking, because those guardian monsters were far too strong. The 2 waves of silver rank oxen already brutal, and the 10 top-tier gold rank bulls flatly absurd. Without 09's Skypillar, even I would have bled a great many ants to bring them down. Most other lords would simply be swept away by those 10 light energy bullets in an eye blink. It cannot be this hard by design, so the difficulty was very likely raised because I am the only one left in the area. That guess sits well with me, and I look again at the 9 arrays and read the true shape of the place. Under normal rules, 10 lords each hold a separate space and each guards a tablet, and any lord who finishes early can teleport into another space to attack. So the beset lord faces monsters ahead and an enemy raid behind. Nod from both sides, and only the last one standing wins the area core. Truly a cruel design, far more tangled than anything out in the open world. I sigh with a touch of feeling and walk toward the first array, telling myself that by rights, each one should hold the space of another lord with 3 fresh waves of monsters, though my situation is anything but normal, and there may well be surprises. Honestly, I hope every array is packed with monsters, because to me they are not monsters at all. They are walking gold mines. My case is a strange one, so I can only leave it to fate, and after a few small preparations, I step in. I pilot Sky Pillar through the array, and the instant I land, a chorus of frantic roars breaks over me and a knocking drums against the mech's lower legs. Looking down, I find countless giant-horned wild oxen swarming Sky Pillar's feet, leaping to butt it with their horns, though their strength is so slight they raise only a faint tremor and cannot scratch it. The sight makes me grin with delight, because my guess was right, the other spaces do hold monster spawns. I do not rush to act, I look the place over first, and the setting is the same jungle of birdsong and flowers where I began. Only its calm now shattered by a herd of irritable oxen bellowing in every direction. And behind them stands one larger bull wrapped in that faint golden light, my old friend the golden-horned savage bull. Giant-horned wild oxen and a golden-horned savage bull together, then, which means all 3 waves for this space have already spawned, though the numbers run low. All the oxen combined fewer than my first wave alone, and only a single golden bull where I faced 10. This should be the normal difficulty for a space entered without any early activation. I look toward the center and find the familiar, mysterious tablet ringed by the herd, floating in the air just as mine did once its guardians were dead. And I understand it whole. Monsters spawn and attack the tablet, and if the tablet breaks, it becomes lootable fragments, while the beaten lord is thrown out of the instance. So with me the only one still inside, all 9 other spaces sit frozen in this state, their fragments ripe for the taking. I could simply grab each fragment and teleport on. No need to fight a single beast. But I do not take the shortcut. Waste is shameful, I decide, and I call Mowal, Swift Shadow, and Leisure Cloud back to work, sending the swarm pouring down into another slaughter that turns the whole space into a butchering line. Leaving the harvest to the queens, I walk to the floating tablet myself, now and then shattering a light energy bullet the lone golden bull spits from a distance. And once I take hold of the tablet, 8 new teleportation arrays open before me. After the ants finish clearing the space and packing everything onto the hovering ants, I step into the next array and repeat it all, over and over. And about 2 hours later I clear the last space at last. The spoils from all 10 spaces need 77 hovering ants to barely hold them, 32 filled from my own opening space, and 45 from the other 9. That alone shows how far my early activation cranked up the difficulty, 7 or 8 times harsher than a normal lord's instance. Yet every ounce of that extra difficulty has become my resources, and I look up at the fat, overloaded hovering ants and smile. I walk to the last floating tablet, take hold of it, and watch it shrink into an area core fragment, then lay out all 10 together. Since experience synthesizing arena badges tells me how this goes, a notice confirms it, asking whether to synthesize the area core, and I agree, and the 10 fragments give off a soft golden light and converge into a bronze-colored stone pillar, about 30 centimeters tall, mysterious runes ringing its sides. I sit in the cockpit and weigh it in my right hand, and even with my strength reinforced so many times over, it feels heavy and dense, denser than any material I have handled. Its panel names it an area core of black iron rank, unbound, and tells me that once bound and inserted anywhere in the area, I become the area chief, with the specific functions unlocking only after that. Interesting, that it even wants to be inserted into the ground. I will just seat it in the underground city when I am home. It is a mystery what it actually does, and after all my effort, it had better carry some real power or the title is wasted. I get up to leave and freeze on the spot, because looking around I find nothing resembling an exit array. I have synthesized the core and it still will not let me out, so either something is missing or the trial is not done. Truth be told, past the opening assault, the whole run has been a vacation with no real danger, and if I had merely snatched the fragments and fled instead of lingering in the other 9 spaces, it would have been easier still. A thing this good does not exist in the dark world without a catch. My unease proves right the next moment when a notice tells me the area core is synthesized, and the final guardian will spawn in 10 seconds, and only after I defeat it may I leave. A final guardian, of course, it was never that simple. The word final in that title sits ill with me, so I sharpen my focus and draw the mech greatsword from Sky Pillar's back, warning Mowal and Swift Shadow to ready for battle, and they answer that they hear me. As I wait, I run the numbers in my head. Since the golden-horned savage bull that spawns here already holds top gold rank strength, this final guardian will be no weaker, which raises an ugly possibility, a platinum rank creature. The thought stands my hair on end, because I have never once laid eyes on a platinum rank existence. And while Skypillar's strength is guessed to reach that tier, a guess is only a guess, and whether it can truly stand against platinum rank combat power is anyone's wager. If the Guardian is platinum rank, this will be a bitter fight. The 10 seconds pass in my brooding, and a black magic circle appears from nothing in the clearing ahead, a figure heavy with menace rising slowly at its center. I look and my breath catches. It stands a full 18 meters, the tallest creature I have ever seen, a bull's head on a human body swollen with muscle, clad in black alloy armor, wielding a 5-meter battle axe. Its right horn is half broken, and a faint black aura seethes off its whole frame. For all the world, a demonized minotaur crawled up out of hell. Its panel confirms it, a demonized minotaur of platinum rank, carrying Iron Mountain Lean, Parry, Intermediate Battle Axe Mastery, Bull Shadow Overlap, and Demonization, its weaknesses being a weakened state after demonization, and oddly, its navel. My worst fear has come true. The Guardian is platinum rank, and setting aside the strange spot of its weakness, its abilities all look fearsome. Looking at that blazing demonic figure, I let a bitter laugh slip. All I did was clear the area 3 days early. I did not break any law of heaven, so was it truly necessary to hand me a monster this size? Only Skypillar's sturdy frame lends me the nerve to stay, because on foot I would have turned and run without a backward glance. There is no escape here though, so the sole choice left is to fight, and deep down some part of me even thrills at the chance to test myself against a real platinum rank creature, so let me measure its mettle. All these myriad thoughts flash by in less than a second, and the demonized minotaur is still standing there in a daze, an opening I would never squander. My gaze locks on it, eyes shut and unmoving, and I raise the greatsword, charge, and swing hard for its neck. At speed, the blade drags a long streak of afterimage and strikes the neck in under a second. Got it, I think. So what if it is platinum rank? A full power swing from Skypillar at that fragile neck will send its head flying, and I can almost see the blood gush. Then my smile freezes as a huge force rebounds through the sword, driving me back 7 full steps before I bleed it off, and when I look up, the demonized minotaur stands wholly unharmed, its eyes open now, bloodshot and crimson and full of mockery. Impossible. Is its neck made of iron? And even iron would have been cleaved in two by now with no reaction at all. I steady myself and look close, and the black aura on its body is slowly thinning, while the aura wound about its neck has grown much thicker. And a fresh notice tells me the battle begins in earnest only once the black aura disperses. My knotted brow eases as a guess forms. While the black aura holds, the demonized minotaur is invincible, and in exchange, cannot move, and this is a real-life cutscene. Back on Blue Star, playing games or watching films, I always wondered why the hero waits politely for the monster to finish transforming before he strikes. And now I have my answer. It was never patience but the rules. The hero bound and forced to watch. Reality is no game with a script I must obey though, and I have no intention of standing idle for it. Even if I cannot hurt the thing now, I am far from idle myself. The aura is thinning fast, and by my read it will be free to move in about a minute. So I pull the sniper rifle off Skypillar's back, shoulder it, and aim, the muzzle drinking in energy. The bound minotaur watches, its pupils shrinking, the mockery draining from its face into something grimmer. With the rifle set, I give more orders, telling Leisure Cloud to charge the compressed energy cannon and aim it at the navel, and telling Swift Shadow to mass the compressed energy guns on that same navel and pour it on the instant the cannon breaks the armor. The navel is the weak point my Eye of Delusion breaking laid bare, and at the cannon's power 12 concentrated shots should punch through the black armor. While the compressed energy gun is weaker, 1200 concentrated shots on a weak point will make it suffer even if they cannot finish it. Watching thousands of ants swing their guns toward its navel, a flicker of panic crosses the minotaur's eyes, and it strains to twist its body, but the black aura pins it, and it can only wriggle in place, its bull eyes going red as if near tears, utterly helpless. That infuriating seal was set up by the instance to show off the Guardian's dreaded majesty, and who could have guessed it would turn into a fatal shackle for the Guardian instead? I do not stop there. I tell Moel to scatter a pack of cage thorns around it, and tell Leisure Cloud to fly the 5 hovering ants carrying Big Boy 1,000 meters above its head, and release on my word, and the ants answer that they hear me. In moments, a ring of cage thorn seeds falls beside the minotaur, roots taking hold at once, and in under 10 seconds they rear into a giant cage that wraps it tight as a rice dumpling, and though it does no harm, it adds another layer of restraint. The cage does block my view of the aura thinning off its body, but I have already fed the numbers to Skypillar's built-in calculator, so even blind I will make no mistake. As the moment nears, I cannot help a small smile, murmuring that all the methods I laid up for the coming regional war never got their chance, and I never dreamed this fellow would be the first to enjoy them. I counted down, 5-4, and on down to 1, and I cry out for everyone to move, and instantly the guns roar and the cage thorns thrash and tear open from the thing bursting loose inside. A full bag of cage thorns, and the cage looks impenetrable, but the thorns are too low ranked to last even a second against a platinum ranked minotaur, and are blown apart at once. A single second of restraint is enough for me though. The instant it regains its movement I act first, pulling Skypillar's trigger in a heartbeat. The giant sniper rifle, long swollen with stored energy, spits a ball of fire that slams into the navel, its kinetic force ripping through the black armor and blasting out a bowl-sized wound that runs with blood. One clean hit, and joy leaps in me, because I had planned to break the armor with the cannon first, and only then have the guns work the weak point. But fearing the cannon might not crack that black armor, I changed my aim to the navel at the last, and the effect is splendid. The Minotaur is barely broken free, and means to pound me, but with its weak point already smashed by that heavy round, it staggers back. Before it can move, 10 more cannon shots and thousands of gun rounds pour in and blow the bowl-sized wound wide as a wash basin. Even so ruined, the demonized Minotaur does not fall. It grips its long-handled battle axe in both hands, props itself on the ground, glares at me with a cruel smile spreading over its lips, and black mist begins to seep from its body. It can still smile after wounds like that, and this black mist, it can only be a demonization skill, the one ability of its 5 that fits this behavior. By every story I ever saw in Blue Star, a monster's transformation restores it to peak condition and hugely strengthens it. A second stage, and the Minotaur is plainly entering it, which I will not allow. I put away the charge-hungry sniper rifle, draw the greatsword instead, and make as if to lunge, and the Minotaur, seeing me, only smirks and lets out a great roar, sure its fast-casting demonization will finish before I close the distance. Just as it swells with pride, I do a thing that leaves it bewildered. After drawing the greatsword, I do not charge. I feint, twist my feet, and rapidly retreat, and the Minotaur stares, confused, plainly thinking this human has realized he cannot be stopped, and is trying to flee. Foolish. It must think, since the instant space is sealed, and there is nowhere to run, and once its demonization completes, it will drag me from my metal shell and devour me alive. While it gloats, I retreat hundreds of meters and let a small smile show, and the next second, hundreds of self-destruct ants linked together are dropped from the hovering ants above and detonated mid-air before they even hit the ground. A huge mushroom cloud rises, and the Minotaur at its heart is driven straight to its knees by the shockwave. Unable to lift its head, terror flooding its face for the first time as it feels the searing heat. It had not missed the hovering ants overhead earlier, but among everything on the field, only Skypillar, with me at the controls, ever looked like a threat. The hovering ants and the ringing swarm were all just ants in its eyes, beneath notice, so it never dreamed those very ants could put its life in danger. What the hovering ants dropped was only the self-destruct ant package Wang Haon nicknamed Big Boy, each ant in it spliced with the same genes to heighten its shockwave, thermal radiation, and softening effect. Though Big Boy's raw blast falls short of Wang Haon's stronger mixes, its weakening is superb and works wonders on high-ranked creatures. Seeing it pinned and unable to rise, I seize the chance, carry the greatsword in with a swift step, and in its despairing eyes drive the blade into its navel. Then I pull free, spin sharp on the spot, swing the greatsword through a full circle, and use the spin's momentum to hammer its neck. The muscles, already softened by Big Boy, cannot withstand a blow so heavy, and the Minotaur has time for only one last roar before its huge bull head sails dozens of meters off like a struck golf ball. Blood fountains from the stump, while the body keeps its kneeling pose, still propped on the axe. I spin once more to shed the force, look at the headless corpse, and let a heavy breath go. Finally over. Do not be fooled that the fight took less than a minute. It was the most perilous battle of my life. Only because I bent the rules, banked my power in advance, and crippled the Minotaur before it could recover did it end this way, or the outcome would have been anyone's guess. Even a win would have been a Pyrrhic one. Skypillar smashed to pieces and no telling how many ants left standing, likely pour again overnight. As it falls, a deep blue magic array appears in the clearing at the center of the space. I take one last long look at the corpse standing like a statue, and sigh that it was truly an indomitable warrior, the kind that on Blue Star, in a war between two armies, even an enemy would praise and bury. Then I say low that Mowell should pack him up, and that we are leaving, and she answers that she hears me. Admire its fighting will as I might, admiration is one thing and a platinum rank body is another, so bury it. Do not be absurd, I have no capital yet to indulge such fine sentiments. Soon the black scythe hunting ants finish packing, taking not only the body and head but even the blood-soaked soil dug up and carried off, and the blue array flashes and the whole space stands empty, nothing left behind. Back at last, and the sight of the empty 5th underground level fills me with a warm familiarity, because after the mind has been stretched so tight for so long it aches for a place it knows. That area core dungeon truly wrung me dry. I pop Skypillar's cockpit and stretch, and my whole body feels ready to come apart, aching fiercely, since powerful as Skypillar is, piloting it is no small labor, like being an astronaut or a top race driver, demanding real physical toughness. Where before I only took it out for a stroll, this time I actually fought a platinum rank creature. The pounding of high-speed runs, the recoil of the sniper rifle, the jarring of every greatsword swing all took their toll. I fish a few red heart fruits from my waist pouch, swallow them in a few bites and let out a long breath of relief. Then I take out a communication ant and reach Tak Mungyal, telling him I am back with the Great Hall and asking him to come to the warehouse district to help sort it. I add that one hovering ant is marked, its contents meant for Wang Heon, so he should remember to hand those over. He answers brightly that it is no trouble at all, and I can leave it to him. With the matter passed off, I cannot spare a thought for anything else. I leave Sky Pillar, spread my light wings, and fly at speed to my bedroom, dive onto the bed, pull the blanket over my head, and drop straight into sleep. I have been fighting since 10:30 the night before, and it is nearly 7 in the morning, and with all the mental strength the instance drained besides, I am wholly spent. The area core is still unbound, and there is important news to trade with Will and the others, but none of it can matter to me right now. When my eyes open again, it is 10:30 in the morning. 3.5 hours is nowhere near enough to bring me back to my best, but with 100 urgent things pressing and a little energy recovered, I cannot fall asleep again. So I rub my throbbing temples and force myself up. I pull out the area core I harvested and shake my head with a smile at the dense bronze pillar, telling it that it cost me no end of effort and yet ranks only black iron, hardly living up to its name. I do not hesitate to bind it, but the placement gives me pause, and I weigh it in my hand and think it over. Once the core is set, I do not know whether it can be moved, so I must treat it as fixed. Even without knowing its true function, its very name marks its importance, so it belongs in the safest spot in the area, which is of course my underground shelter. The 4th underground level is too crowded and chaotic with people, so I will open a separate level just for the core. Decided, I hurry to the dungeon and find Yang Jinhui, whom I have not seen in a long while, and the moment he gets my message, he sets down his work and comes to my office. He asks whether I called for him, and I tell him to come in and sit. He pushes in a little out of breath, and I get a clear look at him, disheveled and worn and unkempt, nothing like the head of the engineering department should look. I sigh, my eyes full of concern, but I tease him that he needs to pace himself, that he is my capable right hand and must not work himself into a collapse. These past days he has been buried in the dungeon's expansion, and though he enjoys fine treatment and rich nourishing food in the territory, he still cannot recover the strength he has poured out. Moved by the worry in my look, he swears he will be careful, that he means to work for me for many more decades yet, and then asks whether I called him for a mission. I nod with a smile and tell him there is indeed something, then take out the area core and lay out my thinking. He lowers his head, lost in thought a while, then looks up and says that opening a separate level for the core is a fine idea. But as my territory grows, the 6th underground level may be wanted for other uses, so putting the core there could prove inconvenient. He offers 2 suggestions, the first being to dig deeper still and seat the core well below, so that even later shelter expansions leave it untouched. I nod, granting that it makes some sense, because vast as the whole area will be, the surface is far too complex against the underground, and I would rather keep developing downward, using the surface only as a zone for planting and farming and settling few people there. Then I ask what the second option is. He shakes his head, a little uncertain, and warns that the second is only a guess and may not work. It is that I captured a tower-type item, and while he was helping 09 design the production line, she mentioned the tower can move, and can serve as a shelter. So why not seat the area core inside it, and then even with the core's position fixed, I could move it by moving the tower. Far more flexible. My eyes light up. Is that even possible? And yet it stands to reason, since the core's own information says it may be placed anywhere in the area, and the wizard tower being a shelter-type item, it should be fine. Only the tower is not yet repaired, and I cannot say whether it can hold the core. I tell Yang Jinhui his suggestion is very useful, that I will go experiment first and fall back on the first plan if it fails, and he answers brightly. I take my leave of him, flap my light wings, and reach the 5th underground level, striding into the mechanical laboratory to find 09. She has plainly pulled an all-nighter, slumped over the workbench fast asleep in her lab coat, a dried trace of drool at the corner of her mouth. Seeing her like that, I slow my steps, unwilling to disturb her, and after a moment's hesitation, I decide to let her sleep and turn quietly to go. But a groggy, soft voice sounds behind me, murmuring my name and asking whether something is the matter. I turn to find her rubbing her eyes and yawning as she sits up, her gaze sharpening from hazy to clear, her voice sliding from soft and sweet back to its flat, indifferent register. I stop and apologize for disturbing her rest, then explain that I just cleared an instance and won an area core and need somewhere to seat it, and I ask whether the wizard tower can hold one. She stands quickly, comes over and holds out her small palm, saying to let her see it. I remind her kindly that it is heavy and to be careful. She says she knows, her face still empty despite the warning, but she takes my advice and reaches out with both hands, and when I lay the core carefully into her palms and let go, its weight presses her hands sharply down. Seeing her about to lose her balance, I grab her hands at once to help support the core, and I look at her a touch helplessly and say, "See? I told her to be careful." She says nothing, only glances at me, then slides her hands out from between mine and the core, letting me hold it while she studies it in silence. Soon she looks up and tells me the core should be placeable inside the wizard tower, since a wizard tower counts as a unique shelter, and a shelter sits within an area, but that we still need to test it. Test it, I ask, a little confused, since the tower is not fully repaired. She shakes her head gently and says the tower's damage is mainly external, and does not affect its inner use, though even if the core seats successfully, Moving the tower will have to wait until it is fully mended and acknowledges its master. So that is how it is, I say, and I nod that I will go try. And led by her, I walk toward the newly built magic metal production line. It sits inside a rectangular, box-shaped steel-framed shed. Before we even reach the door, a buzzing roar, the crack of a whip, and a sharp woman's voice reach us, harrying the workers to hurry, demanding whether they are men or not, whether they wilted after casting a handful of skills, whether they even ate breakfast. I glance at 09 puzzled, and she turns her head aside and says only that these are the people I arranged. Me, I think, and then remember, right, I did have Tak Mung Yul pick out a batch with elemental abilities for the line, Mei Mu Chung among them, though I cannot fathom why she sounds so furious. I push the door open, curious, and the scene inside spreads out at once. A conveyor belt carries metal steadily forward, and as each piece passes a device like a security scanner, the workers beside it step up and release elemental skills into the instrument. It converts them to energy, feeds it into the metal and stores it there, turning it into magic metal before the belt bears it away and brings in the next raw piece. There is only the one production line, but it runs 5 parallel belts and 5 compression instruments, each instrument flanked by 8 to 12 people split into 2 or 3 groups, one charging while the others rest and rotate. And a striking woman in work overalls patrols between the 5 belts, cracking her whip now and then, cursing a little, urging the pace. And whenever a belt falls behind on charging, she quickly casts a flame skill to help it along. By now she is panting, drenched in sweat, even her cursing gone quiet. I am mildly taken aback, not having expected Mei Mu Chung to prove so responsible, and her excitation whip suits the supervising role perfectly, so I nod, satisfied, and follow 09 toward the interior, where the wizard tower is kept. Mei Mu Chung sees me passing and nearly bursts into tears on the spot, hurrying to block my path and begging me to take her along and keep her at my side, insisting every second in this place is a soul-wrenching torment. I shake my head, casually push her aside, and keep walking, telling her not to always be scheming for shortcuts, that a happy life is earned through hard work, and that she is doing very well and I have high hopes for her, so keep it up. 09 and I move on, leaving her standing alone and disheveled in the draft. At the storage area inside the shed, I see the long unseen wizard tower, and I ask whether I just walk in and place the core. 09 nods, saying she has opened the tower's gate so I can go straight in, but that I need to decide which floor to seat it on. I nod, push the slightly ajar gate open and step inside. Broken by me and stripped of its master, the tower stands ownerless now. No energy source within, pitch black, so I calmly unfurl the light wings my light healing ants form, and their faint golden glow drives back the dark and lays the interior bare. The first floor runs several hundred square meters, nothing like as cramped as the outside suggests, and I walk through it musing that the tower looks small from without, so it must use spatial magic, a marvelous thing, a spatial building, high-end technology, and I feel a small thrill imagining what I might do if I ever mastered it. I pass the first floor and climb, stopping only after 3, and once I have seen all 3 I fall to pondering. The first floor looks like a vassal dormitory, the second like Hyo Singyol's laboratory, and the third, why is it built like an ancient imperial palace? A court hall. The man truly had a twisted sense of humor. Beyond Hyo Singyol's odd taste, the layout of all 3 floors suits the core poorly, since these are large spaces that after renovation will see constant foot traffic, and I want somewhere more secluded. I frown, pacing near Hyo Singyol's dragon throne, and then I notice a black curtain behind it, all but blending into the dark, and I pull it aside out of curiosity to find a short stair of 10 steps climbing upward. A hidden mezzanine here then. I go up the steps in a couple of strides, and above is only a small mezzanine 2.5 meters high and 10 square meters across, empty but for a stone pillar at its center, with a tongue-shaped staff driven into it. I examine the pillar but can read no information off it, so I decide it must be a fixture that comes with the tower whose function I will learn only after binding, and I stop minding it and look around again, more pleased the longer I look. This place is good, hidden enough and small enough, perfect for the core. This is the one. I take out the area core and place it, and the bronze pillar floats up and slowly grows to 1 meter tall, then hovers 10 centimeters off the floor, a neighbor to the pillar with the tongue-shaped staff. Good that it seats, I think, letting out a breath, and just as I move to inspect it further, a new notice arrives. The panel announces that the area core is placed, and that the survivor Jang Hyun has become the area chief of this area, that I will gain the functions and rights of the area chief, and that the specifics can be checked at the core. I am stunned a moment, then cannot hold back my excitement, and I look quickly at the floating core. It reads now as an area core of black iron rank, bound its owner the lord of the area holding control over the whole area, whoever breaches the core able to replace the chief, and devouring other cores able to upgrade it. Then come 3 functions. The first is black mist dispersion, scattering the black mist throughout the area, though beyond the area's edge the mist remains. The second is transoceanic travel, letting the area be moved through the core, its speed tied to the core's level. The third is universal radiance, raising the growth and yield of crops and livestock within 10 kilometers of the core by 1/10, and the recovery of stamina and spirit by the same. I read it, then read it again in disbelief, and my heart churns. The information packed into that description, start to finish, is simply too vast, far past anything I expected, and each of the 3 functions is a cheat-like power in its own right. While even the plain introduction to the core hints at deep things. Black mist dispersion, I muse. The mist scattered across the whole area. Does that mean the entire 10,000 square kilometers become my plantation and ranch? And where I once fretted over the black mist's reach, I can now develop with a free hand? Still, with universal radiance in play, it is likely wiser in these lean early days to build within the surrounding 10 kilometers, about 100 square kilometers. Then my gaze sharpens on the second function. Transoceanic travel, moving the whole area through the core. What does that mean? Using an entire area, an entire giant island, as a ship, and what kind of power is that? The implications leave me shaken. Becoming area chief was only the beginning of steering an area and drifting across the dark world. I look at the transoceanic travel function and find a phantom sea chart rising off the top of the core, dense with countless white points of light and one faintly flickering yellow point at the lower right. Several directional arrows sit beside the yellow one, as if to say it can be moved. Among them sit far fewer green, blue, and purple points, and not far from the yellow one 3 or 4 white points away, glows a single green point. I make my deductions at once. The white points, by their sheer number, must be the individual areas, the flickering yellow one my own, which I can steer in a chosen direction, while the other colors carry too little information to name yet, though one lies close by and I can go explore it. Looking at the chart, I feel a strange pressure settle over me, and only a deep breath eases it. The cold current that swept every area was already hinting that oceans ring us all, and now I see it was all preparation for moving the areas. The core starts at Black Iron rank and can only climb by devouring other cores, and cores rest solely in the hands of area chiefs. So even at Black Iron, the effects are this strong, and no chief will pass up the chance to upgrade, nor will I. In other words, the Dark World means for us to sail our area ships and annex one another. And the thought pulls a bitter laugh out of me as I picture the chaos to come. It is as if a pair of giant hands tore the Dark World's continents into countless fragments, and now wants us chiefs to fit the broken puzzle back together. And this perhaps is the truth of the Dark World. The news is too important to sit on, and I decide I must talk it over with Will and the others at once. I stop caring for anything else, walk out of the tower, and message them that it is an emergency and to come to my place for a quick meeting. They take it seriously, since I usually set a time, and this time I am asking them over on the spot. So they drop their work and send teleportation requests one after another, which I approve from the round table in the banquet hall where I already sit. 09 arrives too after getting my message, and Baekhyun, in early, jokes at once that he was just on the toilet when my message came and cut it short to rush over, and asks, "What is so urgent?" I have no interest in bantering, so I only shake my head and tell him to wait, that we will talk once everyone is here, and being perceptive, he reins in his grin and sits obediently. Soon the rest appear and take their seats, and with everyone present I finally speak, thanking them for making the time and saying I believe I have grasped the truth of the Dark World. The truth, Will and the others echo, sitting up straight and trading startled looks, and Baekhyun guesses at once that I have become the area chief. I nod, telling them that not long ago I cleared the area core dungeon, seeded the core, and became chief, and I share the core's functions with them, since they are the same for every chief and there is no reason to hide it from these 4. They finish reading, and their faces turn grave. The area can actually move. Is that not a ship? Baekhyun pulls a long face, dejected, complaining that I should not be so discouraging, that he has not even made chief yet, and here I am telling him that making chief is only the start, that we must sail our island areas to fight other chiefs. Seung-ha looks at him with plain disappointment and tells him not to sink so low, that these are simply the Dark World's rules, forcing us to devour each other, and since there is no escape, why not give it everything? Will nods and adds, seriously, that we have actually gained no small advantages, and that our biggest trump card is the mutual aid contract, so that on the surface we look like a lone chief, while in truth, 4 others can support us at any time. I smile and agree, saying that this is exactly our greatest card, and that anyone who thinks us easy pickings and moves to swallow one of our territories will get a nasty shock, so Baekhyun need not worry. As their faces relax a little, I put my smile away and press on, saying I called them for 2 things. The first is to lay bare the truth of the Dark World, that against the free-for-all ahead, the struggle for a single area is like children playing house. Every opponent from here on will be a strong one picked out of millions, and some monsters even made chief before us, so with only me a chief so far. The 4 of them must seize the time. They nod, solemn, and I go on to the second thing, which is precisely the making of a chief. The first step is to clear every obstacle in the area and become its sole lord, and the second is to enter the area core dungeon, since only clearing it yields a core. At the mention of the dungeon they look puzzled, so I explain that after I became sole lord I got word the dungeon would open early, and that the early opening spiked the difficulty sharply, and I recount what I met inside. When I reached the platinum rank demonized minotaur, Baekhyun yelps again, asking how he is supposed to fight a thing like that. I shake my head and admit the Minotaur's strength is very high, that I barely killed it with 09 Sky Pillar, but that it has one fatal flaw, roughly a minute of rigid invincibility after it appears. Then I describe in detail how I killed it, and conclude with the strategy. To clear the instance, you must seize the window of the Minotaur's rigidity, and lay your deployments in advance, and I can supply them the big boy package for it. Xiongda's cage thorns can buy an extra second so long as the quantity is enough. But beyond that, you need a platinum rank finishing blow, because even after several rounds of weakening, the Minotaur cannot be killed outright by gold rank power. If you cannot finish it fast, it can cast demonization, restore itself, strengthen, and even threaten your life. Then I turn to 09 and ask whether Sky Pillar can be lent to the others. She frowns and shakes her head, saying it is not that she will not, only that at her current strength she can operate mechs for 2 people, and Sky Pillar is already bound to her and to me, so no one else can control it. That sits me back with a frown. Sky Pillar is the only platinum rank combat power I have, and without it, even if I helped the others clear their area obstacles, I could not follow them into the area core dungeon, and could give no help there. Seeing my trouble, Will says in a low voice that his abilities will climb over the next 2 days and give him platinum rank power. Baekhyun grins and chimes in that he too should make progress in 2 days and reach platinum rank, needing only to prepare some deployment items. Then he cannot resist asking what this big boy is, feigning shock that I already have a child, clicking his tongue and moaning that Cheong has no chance now. His words break off in a yelp as Cheong's cudgel cracks down on his head and he sprawls across the table wailing. She rounds on him for talking nonsense, her cheeks faintly flushed, then looks at me apologetically and tells me not to listen to his rot. She adds that her world tree should hit platinum rank tomorrow, so platinum rank power is no worry, and that she will grow more cage thorns since they cultivate fast, and that she has some fitting deployment items to weaken the guardian the instant its rigidity lifts. But she cannot help asking, giving me a strange look of her own, what exactly is Big Boy? Hearing that all 3 will soon hold platinum rank power, I breathe easier and at the same time feel a pang of urgency, my feelings tangled. 09 has Sky Pillar, and the others will master platinum rank power soon. So am I the only one who does not? Am I the one holding everyone back? I smile it away, explain what Big Boy is, and tell them that is all for now, that with no problems they should go back and prepare, push their strength up fast, and leave the clearing of areas to me. Tonight we start with 09, and if we move fast we might clear 2 areas in a day. They nod, knowing time is short, and teleport away, while 09 heads back to the mechanical laboratory to keep working. I check the time and it is almost noon, and I pat the back of my head in annoyance, since it is mealtime and I should have let everyone eat before breaking up. They are gone now and it would be awkward to call them back, so never mind, I will just eat something simple. I asked the chef to fry me a quick bowl of egg fried rice, and I have barely finished half of it when my communication ant rings, and I see it is Wang Haeon, reporting that he has news on the ant's advancement, and my pupils flare and the loaded spoon stops halfway to my mouth. I only just heard the others were about to master platinum rank power, and it left me deeply uncomfortable, so with the clue for my own improvement dangling, I cannot care about anything else. I toss the spoon aside, unfurl my light wings, and rush for Wang Heon's office, calling ahead that I will be right there. I find him in the laboratory fiddling with test tubes, and I ask straight off how it is, how long until he can cultivate platinum rank ants. He sets the tube down, turns calmly, and tells me not to be so anxious, and to please sit, and anxious as I am, I have no leverage over him. So I flop into his office chair and ask helplessly whether he can tell me now. He nods and sets a test tube of dark black solution before me. Under my puzzled gaze, he explains that this is cerebrospinal fluid drawn from the demonized minotaur I hunted, that by his research it can greatly raise an ant's growth potential, though sadly the quantity is small. In his many other trials, no other creature's fluid carried the same effect, so it seems to be a trait unique to beings that have reached platinum rank strength. Since I climbed to the first tier, what has capped the ant's advancement is precisely their growth potential, and so far I've found only 2 ways to raise it: fusing gene fragments or consuming items that boost potential. But once an ant's potential hits gold rank, the raising turns brutally hard. Mowal's own creeping up only a 20th over half a month, 1700ths in all, and still far from platinum. So hearing that the Minotaur's fluid can greatly lift growth potential leaves me overjoyed, because if that is so, then I too will have platinum rank combat power and at last stop dragging everyone down. I ask him quickly how many ants 1 Minotaur's worth of fluid can push to platinum. He hands me a sheet of paper dense with data. He says that for the black scythe hunting ant queen, whose growth potential is highest, replacing 1 gene fragment with a demonized minotaur gene means only 8700ths of the fluid to reach platinum. The sentry ant queen needs a minotaur gene and 9800ths, and for the other queens, even a minotaur gene and every drop of fluid would fall well short. I nod and ask whether that means only Mowal and Swift Shadow have a shot, and he confirms it. Mowal or Swift Shadow deciding who gets the fluid. The answer is plain from the standpoint of raw combat power, so I sigh softly and say Mowal is my main strength right now. Let us advance Mowal first. Then I ask whether the leftover fluid can raise Mars's growth potential to gold rank. He nods and says no problem, that merely lifting the self-destruct Ant Queen's potential needs only 8/100ths of the fluid, or just 3/100ths if fused with the Minotaur gene. Curious, I tell him I want to cultivate a batch of self-destruct ants with weakening properties like Big Boy, and ask whether self-destruct ants fused with Minotaur genes keep the weakening effect. He says yes, that he has already verified it, that the Minotaur gene carries a corrosive quality, so the weakening runs even stronger than before, and that the new combination will be called. Here he frowns, thinks, pushes up his glasses and pronounces that we shall call it Demonized Big Boy. Demonized Big Boy. Watching him say it so seriously, I nearly choke, groaning inwardly that he is a naming genius of the worst sort. What kind of name is that? I picture the scene of introducing the combination to Chung Ha and the others, of my own mouth forming the words Demonized Big Boy, and my skin crawls with goosebumps. Absolutely, absolutely. No one can ever learn this name. Still, I do not ask him to change it, because he looks so pleased with himself that I cannot bear to douse his fire, so at worst I simply will not tell a soul. I force a smile, clap his shoulder, and encourage him that it is not a bad name, then tell him to please replace Mowal's gene fragment and feed her the fluid to lift her to platinum rank. And to see to Mars as well. I tell the two little ones to cooperate with Wang Hyun, that he can make them stronger, and they answer that they hear me. Having set the two of them up, I take my leave and head to the 5th underground floor to check the magic metal line first. I already hold the area core, which meets the condition for a shelter upgrade, but awkwardly my shelter's main body was blown away by Heo Singyul. That leaves me in the odd fix of being unable to upgrade for now, though there is still the wizard tower as a backup. I look over the production line, gauge the output, and reckon that at this pace enough magic metal to mend the tower should be ready by tomorrow around noon. I ignore Mei Muchong's pleading stare and leave the line straight after my inspection, then go to the warehouse district to check the instance hall. I murmur that the biggest prize from the area core dungeon should be all these beast cores and high-grade beef. So much beef it should be plenty for Mowal to cultivate ants once she advances to platinum rank. Lucky that Mowal is not picky or eating this much beef at one go. However fine the meat, she might well cry out that she does not eat beef. I chuckle at my own joke, and am about to go when I spot a worn parchment scroll in a box in the corner of the warehouse. What is this, I wonder, stepping over curiously to pick it up and glance at its information. Its panel names it a treasure map of gold rank, telling me that once opened it grants a beacon in the current area, and that used at the target location it yields items of gold rank quality or higher. I turn the worn parchment over in my hand, still a little thrown by where it came from. It takes me a long moment before the memory finally surfaces and I place it. This is the treasure map I won ages ago out of the 100 treasures pouch, the reward for the first kill in a gold rank area, and somehow it has been rotting in a corner of my warehouse ever since. Its effect is simple. Activate it, and it lights a beacon somewhere inside the area, and wherever the beacon lands is where I dig for treasure. The reason I never used it was that the area had not been unified yet, and the eternal night still hung over everything. So even if I found the beacon, digging in that dark would only have been a headache. So I set it aside, and then one thing piled onto another, until I was working non-stop, and the map ended up buried at the very bottom of a storage chest and slipped my mind entirely. Now that I think it through, that chest had been sitting on the ground floor of the old shelter, tucked in a corner. After Heo Singyul leveled that surface shelter, my tunneling ants must have hauled the chest down to the 5th underground level, along with everything else they salvaged. Map and all. The whole area belongs to me now. The area core is seated, and there is no black mist left prowling my territory. If there was ever a perfect moment to cash in a treasure map, this is it. I only came down here to look over my instance rewards, and instead I walk away with a bonus. A thin smile crosses my face, and I use the map without a second thought. A golden light washes across the parchment, and a notice surfaces in my mind. The map reports itself used successfully, then registers that my territory covers the entire area, so the maximum search frequency kicks in, and after a beat it tells me the search succeeded and hands me a beacon. Territory covering the whole area is just the system's roundabout way of confirming that I am the area chief and every inch of it is mine. What that maximum search frequency is supposed to mean, I still have no idea. A circular coordinate map has bloomed across the parchment with my own position at its center, and a single red dot sits off to the north, which has to be the beacon. I am the area chief with no other lords left to cause trouble, so the danger of a dig should be low, and the map suggests the quality of what I unearth will fluctuate, with a gold grade item counting as a decent haul. A gold grade item holds almost no appeal for me these days though, so I honestly cannot be bothered to go in person. Instead I reach out to Swift Shadow and tell her to send a combat team to use the treasure map. I tell her to be careful that the whole point of the trip is to dig, and to steer clear of any fight with the territory's creatures, unless there is no other choice. She answers that she hears me and obeys. I nod, satisfied, then leave the warehouse and spread my wings toward Underground City Building 1. I find myself wondering what new tricks Sun Weeping has come up with these last couple of days. A while back he developed that powerful talent pill, and I stumbled onto a fresh use for it, turning the pills into a long-term supply for the whole territory to boost my subjects' morale and sharpen their strength. Demand has been enormous, so to keep the flood of orders from stalling his research into new formulas, I even had him ask 09 for help. I just have no idea how well that has worked out. I turn the question over as I fly, and by the time I come to my senses, I am already standing outside his pill refining room. Before I even reach the door, I catch the hiss of rising steam. That stops me for a beat. Then I push the door open, and a wall of heat rolls straight into my face. Inside, rows of steaming iron pots line the room, each one set over a device that looks like a small microwave oven heating it from below. Beside the pots, a crowd of people bend over notebooks, scribbling down readings without pause. The moment they see me, they greet me as their lord. I ask where Sun Weepeng is, and one of them tells me the department head is in the inner room, so I wave them back to their work and head deeper inside. I find Sun Weepeng in the inner room easily enough, and to my surprise, there is another steaming iron pot here too, only larger than the ones outside. He puts down his notebook the instant he sees me and hurries over, welcoming me warmly and apologizing for not greeting me sooner. I wave that off with a smile and circle the strange pot, curious, asking where his pill furnaces went and why they have all been swapped for these tin cans. I also ask whether the crowd outside are hired hands, since refining pills is an esoteric art, and surely not just anyone can master it. He explains, grinning, that this is the concentrated energy pill furnace he had 09 developed for him. I repeat the words back at him, more confused than before, and he nods eagerly. He tells me 09 built it using her energy compression technology, that it only needs to absorb and store energy to output blistering heat, and that it completely solves the old problem of the pill furnace never running hot enough. He talks faster now, staring at the humble tin can with something close to worship. He says the furnace has hundreds of heating points ranged evenly around its inside, that the temperature of each point can be dialed to 1 decimal place, and that the hardest part of traditional refining, fire control, simply does not exist anymore. He tells me that once every heating point is locked in, the success rate can hit a full 100%, and even developing a new formula stops being a matter of luck and becomes a controllable, repeatable operation. He says the only word he can find for it is great, and beyond great his vocabulary runs dry. A quiet admiration creeps into his eyes as he tells me 09's craftsmanship is exquisite and beyond compare, that he admires her to the very bone. I stand there half stunned, honestly not sure it can really be this simple. Sun Weepeng is supposed to be a stiff by-the-book disciple of an old alchemy sect, a traditionalist with a whole lineage behind him. And here he is fiddling with black tech furnaces like a convert. Something feels off, and I mutter that abandoning the old furnaces might be going against everything his sect taught him. He looks almost offended, asking what era I think this is, and who still uses traditional furnaces. He tells me his sect has always followed its heart and never bound itself with that many rules. He adds that if the old patriarchs ever laid eyes on a furnace this good, they would not swap it even for a legendary divine cauldron, and would wield it far more skillfully than he does. It is really too unorthodox for words. A little dazed, I ask whether that means the workers outside actually have no talent for refining at all. He nods and says that is right, that they are people he borrowed from Takmunyo, clever and diligent but with no gift for pills whatsoever. He explains that they only need to use the materials he hands them and set each heating point to the temperature his formula specifies, and the pills form every single time, which is wildly convenient, and that every talent pill in the territory now comes off their line. Then he pauses, smiles, and adds that it does not stop there. He tells me he also gave them several kinds of materials and had them keep adjusting the heating points to hunt for the ideal formation temperature, developing brand new formulas in the process. He says these past few days have been fruitful, with 11 new formulas already found, and even his own 2-pole pill Tao pushed up to silver rank. Wait, how many? I keep my face calm at first, nodding along as he talks, but the moment that number lands, I lose my composure entirely, certain I misheard. I ask him again, half in disbelief, and only accept it after he confirms it a second time. With a complicated expression, I tell him that 11 types in a few days means he will have mastered hundreds within a month, and that his 2-pole pill Tao could tear straight through gold rank, platinum rank, maybe even reach diamond rank. He shakes his head and tells me it is not that simple. He explains that he is churning out formulas so fast right now only because they are low grade, and a low grade pill needs just a handful of heating points adjusted. He warns me that for every extra heating point that has to be controlled, the number of experiments grows geometrically, and that high-grade formulas demand dozens or even 100 or 200 points at once, past what the furnace can currently handle. He says a legendary immortal pill, which counts as a mythical grade formula in the dark world, might require thousands of heating points plus live temperature shifts during the burn, and that just imagining it is enough to make a man despair. Watching him shake his head and sigh, I feel a pang of sympathy, so I force a smile and clap his shoulder, telling him not to try to swallow the whole thing in one bite. I remind him that things are going well as they are, that he should take it slow, and that whatever he needs, resources or otherwise, I will back him. He steadies at that and looks at me with real feeling, then smiles and admits it is not as dire as he made it sound, that as his 2-pull pill Dow climbs in grade, his own sense for pill temperatures and materials will sharpen dramatically. Then, almost offhand, he says he does need my help expanding the scale of the refining room. The little rascal recovered fast. With the black tech furnace in his hands, even his rigid personality seems to have loosened, and I can tell he deliberately set that whole despairing speech up to soften me before the ask, which is honestly fine by me. I shake my head and curse him with a laugh, telling him his acting is good and that he was lying in wait for me the whole time. I tell him not to worry, that the pills he refines are worth a fortune whether we use them ourselves or sell them, so he will never lose money, and that he only has to tell Tak Mungyel whatever he needs. I grant him full authority and tell him to do it boldly, then ask what the 11 pills actually do. He rubs the back of his neck, a little awkward, and thanks me for the support before answering. He tells me the pills cover a spread of effects, raising strength, physique, and agility for both humans and mutated beasts, restoring stamina and mental energy, and mending injuries. He admits most of them are only black iron rank with a handful of bronze grade, so they work on weaker creatures but do next to nothing for anything that has reached gold rank or above. Seeing his regret, I do not mind at all and praise him instead. I tell him this is only the beginning, that low quality and weak effects are normal when you are just starting out, and that the day he develops silver, gold, even platinum and diamond rank pills is not far off. Then I ask him for 5 servings of the pills that work on humans, and tell him to stock some in the territory warehouse later, so Tak Mungyel can drop them into the exchange warehouse and motivate the subjects. He tells me there is no problem, that he already refined a backup batch after finishing these, and that I can take them directly. Saying so, he pulls several labeled glass bottles from his desk drawer and hands them over. I take them, say my goodbyes, and leave the refining room. Back in my office, I turn it over with some wonder. I never expected Sun Weepung to stumble his way onto a whole path of cybernetic pill refining, and I have no idea whether it can carry him to a breakthrough, though given his obsession with the craft it should not be a problem. Then I look over the information on the bottles he gave me. Among everything he has developed, only 4 pills directly boost physical attributes: a muscle strengthening pill and a body strengthening pill, both black iron rank, a bone strengthening pill at bronze grade, and a light body pill also black iron rank. Only the bone strengthening pill, which hardens the bones, is bronze grade, while the other 3 that raise strength, agility, and physique are all black iron rank, and each pill is good for 3 uses. I pour out 3 of each, cup all 12 soybean-sized pills in my palm, and swallow the lot in one go with water. Soon a tingling, itching sensation spreads through my muscles, bones, and blood, though it comes and goes fast and fades to nothing. I feel vaguely stronger but cannot be sure, so I turn my eye of delusion breaking on myself to check. My strength and agility have each risen by 1 point, and my physique by 2. It is not much, but it is convenient, since these gains landed in a few seconds when at my current level, wringing out that same increase would mean a solid week of grinding in the gravity room. I clench my fist and nod, pleased. Once Sun Weepung develops more pills and they stack up, the attributes they hand me will add up to something real. I pick up my manual, send Will and the others a pill package each, then call Tak Mungyel to catch up on the territory's affairs these last few days. The night slides by, and it is nearly 10 before I know it. I have just finished a match in the World Arena, another easy win. My arena badge still has not reached platinum rank, mostly because the advancement fragments are scarce, and with all my time swallowed by area chief business these past days, my attention to the arena has fallen off hard. Soon a row of teleportation circles blooms in my shelter, and Will and the others step through again, handing over the items they prepared. Will frowns and asks whether I really do not need their help. I nod gently, pat his shoulder, and tell him not to worry, that I have the experience now and it is no trouble, and that 09's area has no monster on Heo Singyol's level running things, so it will go far easier. Then I tell him that if he truly cannot rest easy, he should take a look at this, and I smile and step aside to reveal the ants standing behind me. Every last one of them is platinum rank. These are the platinum grade black scythe hunter ants that Mowo began cultivating after she broke through to platinum herself. At the new rank, their bodies swelled another size, and with the several genes fused into them, they have reached a terrifying 6 meters in length. Silver lines have surfaced in the seams along the edges of their dark carapaces, and their overall defense has surged. Their old 100-fold biting force has become a 1,000-fold biting force, and though that is only a 10-fold jump on paper, their physical qualities also climb several times over at advancement, so the two multiplied together make their raw power genuinely frightening. Movable joints have appeared at the base of the great scythe-like mandibles. They are no longer locked to a single clamping direction but can swing and shear through a full circle, like a man wielding 2 scythes and slashing at will. So both flexibility and destructive force have climbed exponentially. A run-of-the-mill gold-level creature would now struggle to breach a black scythe hunter ant's carapace without going all out, and one swing of that scythe would leave even a defense-famous gold creature gutted. Grown to platinum rank, these ants are no longer something an ordinary gold creature can challenge, and their true opponents are only existences that have genuinely reached platinum. The one pity is that even after Mole reached platinum, her old rapid proliferation only evolved into extreme proliferation, which merely speeds up ant cultivation. A single platinum-grade black scythe hunter ant still takes a full 2 hours to grow, so from her breakthrough until now she has managed only 4 of them. Worse, each one devours a mountain of resources. The silver rank bee from the area core dungeon, enough to stuff a hovering ant, only cultivates 3 mature ones, and setting the demonized minotaur materials aside, a single instance's worth of materials makes barely over 100. Still, 4 platinum-grade black scythe hunter ants are more than enough for the enemies ahead, since in Will's and the others' areas each of them is an existence that can stand alone and sweep away everything. Will and the rest all wear the same look of shock and doubt when they take in the 4 giant ants behind me. They have seen gold-rank black scythe hunter ants before, but these 4, with silver patterns tracing their carapaces, have changed too much in size, shape, and sheer presence. Baekhyun's eyes go wide, and he points and asks whether these are platinum-rank ants. I nod and admit it with a smile. He blurts that it is too abnormal, that just feeling their aura nearly made him wet himself, and adds, shaking his head, that he honestly thought he would be the first on the team to reach platinum-rank combat power, only to find himself a step behind again. I tell him it was just a stroke of luck, and that with these 4 little guys along, this operation is a sure thing, so he and the others should prepare their part while I clear 09's area myself. Seeing the platinum-grade ants, nobody raises an objection. Baekhyun scratches his head with a laugh and admits that any one of my 4 little guys could flatten him easily, so he will not get in the way, and that he will go home and wait for the good news of my triumphant return. Will and Shongha nod along, saying they will head back and prepare too, and that 09's side is mine to handle. The group sees me off and goes home with real peace of mind, leaving only me and 09 standing there. That is telling in itself. Back when I was fighting through an area, the others always camped in my shelter until I had completely resolved things before they would leave with easy hearts. Their willingness to walk away now is the clearest proof of what these platinum rank ants mean, the confidence they hand the whole team. Once everyone is gone, I turn to 09 and ask why she does not just stay in my shelter, since it is safer here and she could work the manual and accept vassal applications from the comfort of it. She shakes her head gently and looks at me with that calm expression, telling me this is her business after all, so she will go back with me. She adds that she has no glory rank, which means she cannot shrug off the Black Mist's invasion and fight at my side, so she will wait for me at her own shelter. I do not push, and I agree with a smile. 09 says nothing more and turns to look at Skypillar in silence. Her pupils slowly lose their focus, washing to a uniform gray-white. Under her gaze, Skypillar begins to shrink, sinking from over 40 meters tall down to something over 4 meters, then to 40 centimeters, then 4, until it streaks toward her chest, flashes silver and vanishes into her heart. So 09 actually has a way to fold Skypillar down and carry it on her person. That would mean she can summon it and pilot it into battle anytime, anywhere. I watch, honestly amazed. Who would have guessed that a quiet, white-haired slip of a girl carries the power to turn into a 40-meter war god whenever she pleases? When the contrast is this absurd. She catches me staring blankly at her, lowers her head slightly, and murmurs my name. I cough, tell her I am coming, and hurry to follow. The 2 of us step onto the teleportation array, and our figures vanish from the spot. When the dizziness of the jump clears, we are standing in 09's shelter, and after so long away, I find it has barely changed. Ever since I built her a mechanical laboratory on the 5th underground floor, she spends nearly all her time in my territory, even sleeping in the lab, and only drops back here now and then to grab something. A thin layer of dust coats the bed and the table, and parts and lathes lie piled across the floor with the faint bloom of rust on them. She glances around, her eyes not stirring at all, then looks at me and says there is still a problem. When I meet her gaze, puzzled, she lowers her head a little. She tells me the whole area holds no fewer than 4,000 people, that her territory space is limited, and that if she takes in that many vassals at once, she simply will not be able to fit them. I nod, agreeing that it is a real issue, though not a large one. I tell her I will bring a small team of rock spirits over first to open up enough space to house them all, and that later she can remodel it into a mechanical processing plant however she needs. She nods lightly and thanks me. Then her pupils drift out of focus again, sliding back to that even gray-white, and she walks to the shelter door and cracks it open. The next second, a shaft of silver light bursts out, followed by a heavy roar, and Skypillar has swelled back to its full 40+ meters. She tells me to have a safe trip, and I tell her, with a smile, that I will be back very soon. Then I open the door, and braving the cold wind and the dark, I walk towards Skypillar while giant ants pour out of the teleportation array, one after another behind me. I spread my light wings and slip cleanly into Skypillar's cockpit, run through a few operations, and cannot help smiling at how sharp my condition feels. After Mole broke through to platinum and grew her 4 black scythe hunter ants, my Heart of the Lord effect took hold as well, handing me a solid measure of strength, constitution, and agility, and even a slight lift to my mental attribute. Now, piloting Skypillar into battle, even if I go all out the way I did against the demonized Minotaur, I feel no strain at all, perfectly at ease. I open the map, and the regional layout I scouted earlier springs onto the light screen. Without rushing to deploy, I look out at the swaying tree shadows in the night and give my orders. I tell Swift Shadow to send a small team ahead to clear the road, keep 1,000 meters off the main force, and move out. I tell Mowell to split the 4 platinum-grade black scythe hunter ants into 4 columns striking 4 fronts at once. They both answer that they hear me. In an instant, countless sentry ants spill forth, and behind them the 4 platinum-grade black scythe hunter ants lead an ocean of gold rank ants, sweeping ahead like a black tide fit to devour the world. With my strength this much greater, I have none of yesterday's hesitation. And today, I am in a hurry. I pick a direction on the map thick with high energy points, drive Skypillar forward, and cross thousands of meters in a blink. Better to settle this today, I tell myself, so that after midnight I can go help Will and the others. Let us make quick work of it. At this moment, only 2 days, 1 hour, and 50 minutes remain until the eternal night ends. 09's area may hold no crushing lord on the level of me or Heo Singyol, but among the lesser figures there are 6 lords who have each gathered a heavy host of vassals and refused to bow to one another, locked in a 6-way standoff. Well-meaning folk across the area have taken to calling these 6 the 6 great heavenly kings, and now, at the seam between the last 2 days, a fresh round of conquest has begun. In the north sits the largest faction of all, its lord, a man named Sok Hongjun, who wields exquisite earth element magic and goes by the Rockhammer Heavenly King. His mastery of earth magic let him expand his shelter far past the others, so he can house more vassals than anyone 1,800 of them, a count that sets him at the very head of the 6 great heavenly kings. Right now, Sok Hongjun sits atop a 10-meter earth elemental golem, clad in lowest-colored rock armor, a 2-handed hammer in his grip, his face stern as he watches the fighting ahead. By rights, his strength could crush any single one of the 6 lords with ease. The trouble is that the 2 heavenly king lords whose lands border his understood the old truth that when the lips are gone, the teeth feel the cold. So to hold him off, they struck a mutual aid pact, each swearing to throw everything into the other's defense the moment either was attacked. Sok Hongjun is powerful enough to beat their combined forces, but it would be a ruinous victory that gutted his own strength, and the region's remaining heavenly kings would only swoop in to feast on the wreckage, which is the last thing he wants. The opposing lord flings a threat across the field, demanding whether the Rockhammer Heavenly King truly wants a mutually destructive fight when he knows full well the strength of 2 heavenly kings standing together. Sok Hongjun snorts coldly. He draws a deep breath and speaks all at once, his voice ringing like a struck bell across the whole battlefield. He declares that since he Sok Hongjun dared to come at all, he would never do anything so foolish as let the snipe and the clam grapple while the fisherman walks off with both. He tells them he already holds overwhelming power and asks why they do not simply surrender. Then he surges up off the golem, swings his arms, and slams his 2 great iron hammers together, and a lowest-colored halo flares as a sound like muffled thunder rolls out. One after another, 100 lowest-colored magic arrays open across the ground, and from each rises an 8-meter golem of packed lowest, tramping toward the battlefield. The 2 opposing lords freeze the instant the golems appear, their faces going grayer than the lowest itself. They look at each other, then stammer out, half sobbing, that these are 100 gold rank earth elemental golems, that they surrender, that they are willing to pledge their allegiance. Sok Hongjun had expected nothing less, and he sweeps a cold, arrogant glance over them as a swell of heroic ambition rises in his chest. He scoffs that they are mere chickens and dogs, that with 2 of the 6 great heavenly kings now folded in beside himself, he commands 60 to 70% of the region's whole power, and demands to know who can possibly stop him. He proclaims that the area chief can only be him, that he alone could dominate the entire region before the eternal night even ends, that there was never any such thing as 6 great heavenly kings, only one true heavenly king, and that is Sok Hongjun. No, he decides aloud. Heavenly king is too small. He shall be called Heavenly Emperor, destined to crush all enemies, with this whole dark world bowing as the domain of the Rockhammer Heavenly Emperor. He stands with his hands clasped behind his back, heart heaving, eyes bright as he watches the 2 lords be absorbed into his ranks. Everything is unfolding exactly to plan. Then, in the distance, he catches a flash of fire streaking straight for his position. A flash of fire? He pauses, and in that heartbeat of confusion, the fire is already upon him, and he finally sees its true shape. He goes rigid, his hands trembling so hard that his 2 heavy hammers slip loose and clatter down onto the head of the golem beneath his feet. That was no flash of fire at all. It is a mech giant over 40 meters tall, and the fire is only the glow of the propulsion engine mounted on its back. That mech giant is Jang Hyun, piloting Skypillar, this being the very direction he chose. Jang Hyun looks down at the thousands of survivors, small as ants from that height, and at the 100 gold rank earth elemental golems that barely clear Skypillar's calves. He tells the man below, with genuine approval, that he must be their lord, that it is not bad at all to command so many gold rank summoned creatures, and that he can surrender, or they can fight. Sok Hongjun cranks his head stiffly up a full 180 degrees, stares at Skypillar in raw shock, and forces out, bitterly, that he surrenders. And so the Rockhammer Heavenly King, no, the Rockhammer Heavenly Emperor, falls quietly before his march of conquest has even begun. Back inside 09's shelter, I stretch and remark, dryly, that not one of them could put up a real fight, and the whole thing took an hour and a half, most of it just travel time. And these people call themselves the 6 Great Heavenly Kings. It is like watching kids play house, honestly embarrassing, and I wonder aloud how old they are to still be acting out some middle school power fantasy. Not long after I fold Sokham Junin, the ant columns I sent out sweep through and conscript every remaining survivor, the rest of the so-called 6 Great Heavenly Kings included. 09 nods and allows that it is a bit childish, then says it reminds her of the title I went by in the area, something along the lines of Gale Shu. I cut her off before she can finish, insisting flatly that no such thing ever existed. She catches my embarrassed look, lowers her head, and the corner of her mouth curves up just slightly before she smooths her expression back to calm, and looks up again. She tells me this hall is considerable, and her shelter has too little space to hold all of it, and that since I did all the work, I should take everything but the metal resources, the unclaimed manuals included. 09 has always lived out of my shelter, and whenever she needs anything I hand it over without a second thought. So as close teammates, the two of us have never bothered drawing hard lines between what is whose. I think it over for a moment, then agree, telling her we will stow it in the warehouse area for now, and she can pull whatever resources she needs straight from there. Checking the time, I rise from my seat. I tell her I will send Tak Mungyol and a team over to help tally the vassal information, and that there is still time on the clock, no sense wasting it, so I will head straight to Baekhyun's area. The next second I summon a teleportation array, and just as I am about to step through, 09 speaks up, telling me to wait, that she is coming too. She points out that her area is safe now with no enemies left, and that she cannot help with the tallying anyway. Just now, clearing her area, I subdued a total of 4,125 vassals for her, which drove her glory level straight up to level 4, granting her 3 hours of black mist immunity a day, enough to move around freely in the mist. I nod and tell her that works fine too. Then I bring Tak Mungyal's team through to manage the vassals, and I step into the array with a body of ants and the resources, my figure fading out. Baekhyun has already been pinging me, asking whether we are not supposed to clear 09's area tonight. I tell him 09's side is already done, that by the order we agreed on it is his turn next, and that I will bring 09 along. He is delighted, half in disbelief that it finished so fast, and repeats that he is ready and to come over quickly. Soon a teleportation array opens in his territory, and 09 and I materialize to find him already waiting in the shelter hall. Skipping the pleasantries, I tell him straight that we have 20 minutes left on today's clock and I am starting right now. He says that suits him, that he holds a glory level and can operate outside too, and offers to sweep the nearby areas himself, so we might finish faster, and bank some time. I agree, telling him 09 and I will take the distant enemies while he clears the close ones, and to begin the operation. Baekhyun nods, throws the door open, and calls down to his combat squad, roaring at his brothers to charge, that the area is being unified today. They shout back that they hear him, and well-equipped warriors come pouring up from downstairs, plunging fearlessly into the darkness beyond the door. Clearly Baekhyun is popular around here. I glance at the warriors vanishing into the night, summon my body of ants from the array, and send them sweeping expertly towards his area, then climb aboard Skypillar with 09 and rush into the dark ourselves. I tell her simply that we are moving. Baekhyun was already the strongest lord in this area. He had just never bothered to expand before, and compared to 09's territory, the quality of the lords here is even more pitiful. With enough black mist immunity, he could probably have conquered the whole area on his own, never mind my ant swarm and 09's Skypillar backing him. The three of us launch together and sweep across the entire territory like a gale, and it takes only an hour to uproot every force in the area and change out their banners. Carrying a heavy load of vassals and sacks of resources, we return to Baekhyun's territory, and even counting travel it ran just an hour and 15 minutes. It is already 5 to 1 in the morning. With no more pressure to refresh my black mist immunity, the urgency drains out of me, and I sink onto the sofa in Baekhyun's shelter to rest a while. What truly wore me out was never these weak lords who topple at a touch, but the bodily and mental fatigue of hauling myself around at maximum load, and I am flatly spent. Baekhyun finishes handing off the vassal intake and tallying to his people, wipes the sweat from his brow, jogs over and starts diligently kneading my shoulders. He tells me it is all thanks to me and 09, and that on his own there is no telling when he would have subdued the whole area. I wave a hand back at him and tell him to knock it off, that with his strength even a little later would not have been much later, and that we only pulled the timing forward a touch. He grins that time is money and pulls out a ring, holding it out to me. When I look at it, puzzled, he explains that this is his reward for the trip, that even close brothers should keep clean accounts, and that this second one here is for 09, handing her another ring as he says it. 09 shakes her head and says flatly to give it all to me, that she does not want it. Baekhyun blinks, stunned, looks from her to me and back several times, then puts on a knowing little smile and laughs that he understands. pressing both rings into my hands. He tells me the ring itself is a storage ring holding 20 square meters of space, with all the resources sealed inside. A storage ring with 20 square meters of space no less, far roomier than the beast hide waist pouch Will handed me before. My attention drops so fully onto the ring that I miss the strange look on Baekhyun's face, and I tell him, grinning, that he is a rascal for sitting on something this good, and not producing it sooner. He hedges, insisting he only just exchanged it through his family's channels. I let him off this time, warning him to speak up earlier the next time he has good stuff, then push up off the sofa. I tell them today's Black Mist immunity still has over 5 hours left on it, more than enough to clear Will's and Cheongha's areas too, with room to spare. It is 1 in the morning, I point out. The nightlife has only just begun, and we may as well finish the whole thing in one go before sleep. Baekhyun nods that it is a good idea, then offers a suggestion, telling me his glory level has also hit level 4 for 3 hours of immunity a day, that he has used some but 2 hours still remain, and that 09 should be the same. He proposes I split my forces in two, so that he and 09 can join the fighting, and we hit both fronts at once, aiming to settle both battlefields inside those 2 hours. I turn it over, then agree, telling him to contact Will and Cheongha, that we will make quick work of it, and that during the day they can all run the area core dungeon again to become chiefs, so we can watch each other's backs. With 4 platinum-grade Black Scythe Hunter ants spearheading, my ants take almost no losses, so weathering one more battle is out of the question as a worry. I act on it at once, pulling out my manual and contacting Will and Cheongha on the spot. By the plan we finalized, I clear 09 first, then Baekhyun, then Will, and finally Cheongha, whose defenses are the sturdiest of the lot. Both of them are startled we are moving this fast, but they quickly recall the platinum rank ants I just picked up and put it together. Cheongha sighs to herself that the strength of platinum rank creatures is clearly no small thing, since with only 4 platinum ants I have sped everything up this much, and she cannot help wondering what more of them would do. Her longing for platinum combat power burns a little brighter. Little Green will advance to platinum too, she reminds herself, probably by tomorrow. Soon I arrive at Cheongha's shelter, with 2 platinum ants and 2/3 of my ant army, having left the other 2 platinum ants and the remaining third under Mowal, who leads them alongside 09 and Baekhyun to clear Will's area. After reaching platinum, Mowal's intelligence climbed sharply, and now, apart from a way of thinking that still tilts toward the ant race, her pure intellect is no less than a human's. So with her heading that column I am entirely at ease. In the dark night stands a giant tree freckled with green light, so tall it seems to pierce the sky. 1 or 2 wooden structures nestled along its main trunk. Cheongha, in a green down jacket and blue jeans, stands out on the trunk before a wooden building, manual in hand, gazing ahead eagerly. A teleportation array opens out of thin air in front of her, and I step through with my ant army spilling out behind me. Seeing her face flushed red from the cold as she waits, I smile and ask whether she has been standing out here long. She rubs her hands together and shakes her head, saying she only just came out. I nod and tell her to come sit inside a while, that this place can be left to the little guys. Then I look to Swift Shadow at my side and tell her that since Mole is not coming, she is leading this time, and every ant, including the 2 platinum-grade Black Scythe Hunter ants, answers to her. I tell her to go by the intelligence we gathered earlier and bring back all the people and resources in the area. Most of all, I tell her, she must protect herself, and there can be absolutely no accidents. She answers that she hears me and guarantees the mission done, then straightens her body, holds her head high, and thrusts her uppermost foreleg upward, like a battle-hardened soldier snapping a salute before she leads the swarm off into the distant night. Watching me hand command wholesale to an ant leaves Cheongha a little surprised and worried, and she asks whether we could not go along after all. I tell her not to fret, that the map intelligence for her area was scouted by Swift Shadow's own team, in the first place. Unless someone here suddenly spikes in strength through a genetic mutation. I add, the ant army already has the power to sweep the whole area, so whether we go or not changes little. The truth is that back when I drove Skypillar into a fight, both my travel speed and the sheer dread of the thing could help end battles early. But Skypillar has gone with 09 to Will's side now. Even though my own strength has grown a great deal, and I carry plenty of ways to save my own skin, my joining a battle barely moves the situation. If anything, it might light false hope in some cornered lord and spark a rush to capture the king first. I would never actually be taken, but it would only add hassle, so I choose to lie low. Seeing me hold firm, Cheongha stops trying to talk me out of it and nods that it is fine as long as there are no problems. Then she offers that she has been researching plenty of new plant species lately, all growing in the underground farmland I built for her before, and asks whether I want to come take a look, adding that I can carry off some seeds to cultivate if I like. I nod and tell her, with a smile, that I will not stand on ceremony then. Time slips past and nearly 2 hours drain away until it is 3 in the morning. For most people, this is a fine hour to be asleep, but for some, tonight is a sleepless one, above all in the areas where Will and Cheongha hold ground. There, dozens of lords great and small have been clawing at one another, brimming with ambition, when countless giant ants surged up as if crawling out of hell and cut their struggles short. They are told this is no clash of heroes, but a squabble among weaklings, then conscripted and herded into the belly cavities of hovering ants, dozens of them stuffed until they bulge and ride low, overloaded. With that, every lord in both areas loses his sovereignty and switches his allegiance. Both, like 09 and Baekhyun, reach glory level 4 and stand as the last lords left in their respective areas, and both receive the notice to open the area core dungeon ahead of schedule. Once all 4 of them clear that dungeon, they will become area chiefs and gain the full slate of abilities an area chief holds. And there are still nearly 2 days left before the eternal night fully ends. By now, in the banquet hall of my underground city, the 5 of us are gathered around a round table. It is 3 in the morning, but even a fragile Blue Star college kid can pull an all-nighter. Never mind these top survivors tempered by Dark World battles and all risen to Tier 1. Every one of them is the sole lord of an area now, faces bright with joy, without a trace of sleepiness. I scan the group, catch their expressions, and cannot help smiling as I ask whether they are truly set on opening the instance right now, reminding them I already warned them how brutal the area core dungeon is, and that they need to think it through for themselves. 09 hardly counts, since I cleared the thing using her sky pillar, and she is its very creator, so when she activates her mech god state, her combat power leaps enormously. It is Baekhyun and the others, still without platinum rank combat power, who worry me. The area core dungeon allows no cheating whatsoever, leaning entirely on one's own strength with maybe a few small tools carried in. And I cannot send a single ant to help. Meeting my concerned gaze, several of them set their jaws and nod. They tell me that if this were a fight against a free-roaming platinum-rank creature, they would absolutely wait until they had platinum combat power in hand. But with the 1-minute time limit and the items they have prepared, it will be fine. Will agrees that they could play it safe and hold off until they reach platinum first. Then he presses the point that one step behind becomes every step behind, and that in the ferocious competition of the dark world, a man who lacks the will to press forward will never go far. Seeing how set they are, I stop arguing and nod, telling them in a low voice that I understand and will not stop them since they have already decided, and that they should take these little guys along, who ought to be a help. I point behind me, where 4 groups, 20 ants in all, sit oozing black gas, each one round as a watermelon. These are self-destruct ants grown to gold rank infused with the demonized Minotaur's genes. The demonized big boy combination I bred not long ago. I explained that they cannot form a mutual aid contract with my ants, and that any other ant carried into the instance would strike out blindly, friend and foe alike. But self-destruct ants have no such issue, because all they do is explode, so there is nothing to control. Baekhyun asks, uneasy, whether that is not actually worse. I tell him not to worry, that these ants carry a special gene sequence, the big boy combination I mentioned before, with a fierce weakening effect. The big boy I used in my own instance was only silver rank and still stripped 20% of the guardian monster's strength, and these are gold rank, so they will shave off at least 40 to 50%. On top of that, they do not detonate on their own, and only blow if they endure a freefall impact from over 100 meters up, so all they have to do is time the Platinum Guardian's awakening, and set them off from 500 meters away. That eases Baekhyun a little, and he steps forward, but the sight of the round-bellied self-destruct ants looking ready to burst at any second stops him cold, so he backs off a couple of steps and shoves Cheongha and the others behind him for cover. I shake my head, smiling, and tell him to just think of them as pressure-triggered bombs. Perfectly safe. He does need to work out how to set the blast off though, whether by lifting them high for a free fall or by a hard remote collision. If it is the second method, he must make sure the collision force runs high enough, or it will never trigger. Cheongha tells me there is no problem, that she has a safe way to trigger them, thanks me, then walks right past Baekhyun, squats down before the self-destruct ants, and gently strokes their warm soft bellies, telling the cute little guys she is counting on them. Will and 09 step up to claim their own groups as well. Baekhyun, seeing that nobody else is afraid, has no choice but to fake his composure, walking to his assigned group and calling out in a shaky voice that they are not scary in the least. So cute. Clearing my instance took me about an hour and 20 minutes, and since Will and the others lack my strength at mass combat, wiping out all the spatial monsters will run far slower for them. At least 2 hours, maybe 3 or 4. After seeing my teammates off, I rise and head for the 5th floor warehouse area. Helping clear their areas earned me a mountain of resources, a large share of it shipped back to my shelter as thanks, and it is all heaped in the warehouse now. When I reach it, a storage room 10 meters high and 100 meters deep is stacked to the brim with resources, sorted by nothing at all, a chaotic mess that gives me an instant headache. Better to have Tak Mungyel find someone to put it in order, since it looks like a landfill, but Tak Mungyel just marched his team through helping 09, Will, and Cheongha tally their vassals back to back, so he is wrung out. Let him rest well, and he can sort it slowly afterward. Off to one side of the storage room entrance sits a separate pile, a small mountain whose peak stands 2 heads taller than me, and its contents are uniform. All slim diary-like booklets, unowned manuals every one. These little books, no bigger than a notebook, have stacked into a heap that dwarfs me, a testament to their sheer number. They total 12,245 copies, gathered from Will's and the others' 4 areas and all handed to me. Every unowned manual stands for a blue star human who died somewhere in the dark world. A mountain of corpses, a sea of blood, and this is a mountain built of bones. My chest goes heavy as I take out my own manual and lay it gently atop the pile. The next instant, black fire catches and ashes roll loose, and it takes a full 20 minutes for my manual to swallow those 12,000 and more unowned books. My glory sits at level 5 now, 27,029 of the 40,000 needed. Still a fair stretch of experience short of level 6. Each area holds 10,000 manuals, and manual experience only transfers rather than vanishing, so even manuals another lord has absorbed come to me the moment I conquer him. At this rate, dragging my glory up to level 6 means attacking at least 2 more areas. I frown slightly and close the manual. I am about to go check the magic metal production line when I stop myself. The metal will not pile up high enough to repair the wizard tower until around noon, so never mind, I should rest first. It is already 3:30 in the morning, and I am worn thin, so I unfold my light wings and streak off toward my bedroom. In the early morning, I open my eyes slowly and check my manual to find it is already 7:30. I sit up, draw a deep breath, and feel instantly wonderfully refreshed. I was grinding away so late last night, and yet after only 4 hours of sleep, I am fully recovered, which would have been flatly impossible before. It seems Mowal reaching platinum handed me more than those few attribute points. Some quieter enhancements folded in besides. I touch my chest and feel the powerful throb of the heart that is fused with the heart of the Lord, then pick up my manual and start paging through it, wondering whether Will and the others had a smooth run of it. Their messages are already waiting. One says the job is done, and he will come by after sleep. Baekhyun crows that he succeeded, cleared his instance and seeded the area core, so his area can move now too, though his spot lands more toward the center, and we may end up a bit far apart, which is a shame. Cheongha reports that Little Green is beautifully suited to this guardian mode, that the whole trip was easy, and that she has not had such a satisfying kill in a long time. Seeing that every teammate cleared and checked in, I let out a breath and smile faintly. It is good they all passed, and from the timestamps on their messages, they must have been drained and dropped straight to sleep, so we will hold a meeting to sort out our next moves once they wake. 09 was the quickest to message me, since with her platinum combat power and sky pillar she cleared the instance in 2 hours, while the others ran much slower, the slowest being Will at a full 3.5. Will's ability to clear a crowd is genuinely a bit thin, poorly suited to large-scale fighting. Gauging everyone's recovery, I send around a message to meet at 11. Then I pick up my communication ant and call Tak Mung Yol, telling him to have the banquet hall kitchen prepare lunch. He asks what I would like the kitchen to make, Western, Chinese, or a fusion of both. I mull it over, and in a half daze I remember the days when we first pulled a team together. Still so weak, resources so thin that a pot of hot pot counted as a luxury. Now we are all area chiefs, the sole lords of our own domains. I tell Tak Mung Yol to just make hot pot. Time flies. After breakfast, I tour the territory and listen to Tak Mung Yel's report on the recent affairs of the domain, and before long it is nearly 11. I rise, leave my office, and reach the banquet hall, where the attendants flanking the door bow in unison and greet me as Lord. I nod, and ask whether the dishes are all ready. One tells me respectfully that everything is prepared, that they have set out a 4-compartment hot pot base of clear broth, mushroom, tomato, and butter, with every ingredient the most precious gold-rank meat, vegetable, and fruit the territory has to offer, and asks whether they should serve now. I smile and tell them it is excellent, that they should have Tak Mung Yal log a contribution for the banquet hall work group, and to hold the food until everyone has arrived. My territory structure grows more complete by the day, and I have accumulated a great many good things, so every elixir, skill book, dish, and item now trades for contribution points. Hearing that contribution is on offer, the attendants on both sides light up with joy and thank me over and over, unable to keep from marveling at how generous their lord is. Not long after I sit down, several teleport requests come in, and I remark that they are quite punctual. Will and the others surface one after another into the hall in good spirits, and I smile and congratulate them on their triumphant return, telling them they all worked hard and to take their seats quickly.